Okay, we are live. We are ready to go. And I think we have an excellent show prepared for you guys today. Um, First, we're going to start off by saying hello to my friends on the panel. I have Jack from Foul Play. Hello, Jack.
Oh, there we go. I had to mute YouTube. I'm sorry. Hello, everybody. And yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Kay, do you want to spend a couple of words on a hello?
Absolutely. I mean, hello. I see. Is this the I see a message in the chat that I could answer before we get started, if you want.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, Crockett.
So, I mean, Oklahoma, if you've followed any other cases besides Daniel's, is just as corrupt as Wisconsin and Texas and many other states. So, as far as Daniel being exonerated through the pathways that our Constitution allows for, we don't really follow the Constitution in Oklahoma. Sadly, or he would already have had a new trial. They've gone to great lengths to make sure that his conviction was confirmed, upheld. And so he has one shot left with the courts, and his team is working on post-conviction relief, state post-conviction relief. Daniel really wanted to give it a shot and go to the Supreme Court, which he did with a writ, hoping that would be a faster path to his exoneration. But, as we all know, the Supreme Court is so overloaded that I can't remember what the stat is. It's something ridiculously low of the number of cases that they actually can take up and hear. We were really hopeful when he was at the Supreme Court level because I think it was Rodney Reed from Texas. I believe he had a writ at the same time. And the research that I did showed that the Supreme Court could bind these cases together. I can't remember what the technical term for that is. And hear all these cases that have a similar concept or whatever issue together, but none of that happened, none of it at all. And so he is really anxious for his attorney to, well, first of all, the judge who was sleeping with prosecutors, he's been so unfair from the very beginning. Because when you think of it, this case is basically 13 cases that they just bundled all into one case. And so when you talk about this case, and when you try to write briefs, it's very difficult to stay within the page limit. So Daniel's attorney had already requested a page limit extension for the brief. I think it's 25 pages. I think they asked for it to be increased to 50, which Judge Henderson denied. So Judge Henderson, he's gone. He's off doing whatever he does out in the private world now. And so that's the first thing that his team needs to do, is get back in front of a judge. I believe it's going to be Judge Natalie May, although if I'm saying that right, it's M-A-I. I believe that's looks like who his judge is going to be. That could change. And there's really no reason that she shouldn't request the page limit extension. So that'll happen, and then file the brief, and then, he wants an evidentiary hearing, obviously. And we'll see. I have no hope that they will do anything to grant him relief in the state of Oklahoma. But the good news is that we just had an election, and Vicki Bahena, who was a federal prosecutor for, I think, 25 years, and then her son was convicted of murder. It was a military trial, and I don't have any information about that to know if it was a wrongful conviction or not. I have no details of that, but she was able to get him, I think it was that judge, or that President Trump pardoned him. But as a result of fighting for her son's freedom, she left her job as a federal prosecutor, and she has been a defense attorney for the last several years. And she, up until, I'm assuming she had to resign her position as executive director of the Oklahoma Innocence Project when she was elected as Oklahoma County District Attorney recently. But she's in the office, and I believe her to be fair, and I'm hopeful that she will look at Daniel's case. I understand the can of worms it will open if she overturns it, or asks for it to be reviewed. But she is the one she has the power to do something about it. And I believe that I've always believed since I got involved in this case. And, we were waiting for 2.5 years for the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals to answer Daniel's direct appeal. And anyone who's been following the case knows that there were some secret hearings involved in trying to not really address the pillars of his direct appeal. They handled that behind closed doors. They didn't allow Daniel or his attorney to be present, and they screwed him. Because there are too many people that are going to be in big trouble. They're going to be, they've just got to be thinking about how many lawsuits are going to happen, how much this is going to cost the state of Oklahoma. And they're willing to sacrifice. Daniel's not the only wrongfully convicted citizen from Oklahoma who is incarcerated. There are many. And there are, a handful of high-profile ones that everyone knows about. And so, it's political, and it comes down to money. But I do think we're at the point where now what we have to look forward to, if Vicki Bahena, if we see, she's political too, she's not going to do it, she's not going to touch it, then the best that we can hope for is that something that would happen in the legislature that would open a door for Daniel to get relief that way. I'm not sure exactly what that would be. Or we start looking at things that are really depressing, like, well, we have another election in 4 years. So, we need to put a lot of energy into campaigning for Attorney General, District Attorney, Governor, because those 3 people have this enormous power that they and most attorneys general, DAs, and governors squander, and that is the power to grant this extraordinary relief when the courts get it wrong. So sorry, that was a super long answer to your question, but that's where we are. That's where we are. So, his final appeal will be this state post-conviction relief that his team is working on right now.
Sorry, I was muted.
Oh,
Thank you,
that's
Kay.
okay.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that. So Crockett, hopefully that gives you a better idea of kind of where we are, where we're working from, and what our hopes are. It's all we can do, right? And so, oh gosh, okay. So anyway, that's what we're doing, trying to, gather together as many pieces of evidence that we can to help with the state post-conviction. So, so I'm not going to go by name right now because I want to get started right on the program. But I do want to say hello to everybody in the chat, and thank you so much for being here on a Sunday afternoon. And Jack for graciously allowing me to take his OM spot today so I could kind of catch up from Thursdays.
It's the least that I could do, because we just kind of ran right over your time slot Thursday. So hey, it's all good.
It's okay. It was an important one. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Maz, oh gosh, I don't know quite what to say to Maz. She's brand new to the case, Kay, and she would like to
A brief outline.
a brief outline.
That's tough. Oh man.
Maz, I'll see if I can get you something in writing.
Okay, that'll be good.
Yeah.
It's really complicated, Maz. It's far more complicated than Stephen and Brendan's cases, and they're bad. So.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, the most summarized podcast that I've seen, and I mean, it's Jason Flom's episode of Daniel Holtzclaw's case. What is his show called? Maz, if you just Google Jason Flom, Daniel Holtzclaw, you'll find the episode.
Or wait for less than a minute, and I'm sure Catnet will drop a link.
Oh, there you go.
For you.
There you go. But I still will find you a more thorough written form, because he does have a time limit on his podcast. So, he had to crunch it, and you can't do that with this case.
Yeah, there's no crunching. So it's hard to even crunch one single accuser, much less the whole case. So
it really is.
Yeah. And so thank you, Maz, for coming and joining and not really knowing anything about the case. That means a lot to me, and it will mean a lot to Daniel. And that's what this is all about, trying to get more awareness of his case out to everybody that we possibly can, which is why I'm kind of going to change my presentation, I guess, a little bit, starting with tonight. And that is that I'm going to, rather than always making my fun videos that I love doing, I'll still do that when I can. Hi, Sharon. I'll still do that when I can, of course, because I love doing it. But I'm going to start reading with you police reports, preliminary hearing, parts of preliminary hearing transcripts and parts of trial transcripts, and where I can, deposition video and transcripts, like nothing major and extensive, but enough so that you can, if you're sitting on the fence, you will come over to Daniel's side of the fence for sure. So thank you, Kay, for offering that for Maz, and for Catnet for dropping Jason Flom's link in the chat. It's a really good podcast to listen to. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about Syrita Bowen. She's one that really none of us have spent too much time investigating or researching very much, because not that her case isn't complex, because it is, but some of the other ones are so much more complex, and we've been doing one accuser at a time. And, so I haven't really spent, a couple of years ago, I read through everybody's things, but I haven't really done any major information on her for my own research. But I do have these things that I'm going to share with you. The first thing that I'm going to share is, pardon my froggy throat. Oh, it's so frustrating. I'm going to share with you, I'm going to read through some of the police report of this accuser, because it's, whoops, is that what I wanted to do? Yeah. Because it's definitely interesting. And just listening to this police report, you will begin to pick up on inconsistencies right away. I have highlighted important things that I'd like to point out to you in yellow, and the things that are highlighted in the purple or whatever color it is are like really important things. And as you can see, they start right away. So this is the first page. Her report date was October 6th of 2014. And by this time, Daniel had been arrested, and his face and his name were all over the news nightly. And let's see if I can read that from here. Let me shut this down and make that a little bigger. Can you guys see that here in the StreamYard? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she didn't report, and she didn't actually report, just like all of the other accusers. She was solicited. And I'm going to read to you how that happened. And this is the way it happened with every accuser, with the exception of Janie Liggins. So if you guys want to help watch the chat and let me know if I need to pause for a question or something. Okay. And her, it's up for debate, but her incident day was allegedly May 22nd of 2014. And that would have been 2 days, or within a couple of days of Terry Morris's assault. And just a little under a month before Janie Liggins made her accusation. But there's going to be some debate.
Is that the date of the radio traffic that I put in the chat?
Oh, I forgot you gave me that
Discord
too.
chat. I can't. Anyway.
May 22nd would be that date. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, as per par, they,
yeah,
that's how they did this case, was to use his work records to place him out with these women.
Right.
Which I guess you could build a case against any officer on any police force using that method. So it may be flawed.
Yeah, most likely it is. I'm going to find, so the first one, I'm going to play the radio traffic from Daniel. I'll start with that. From Daniel, when he calls her in for this legitimate stop that he made on her. I'm not sure how well this will work. I didn't record it, but I'm just grabbing it from Google, so hopefully you can hear it okay. Did that go over okay?
I didn't hear it.
I didn't hear anything. Do we need to unmute YouTube?
Oh, yeah, you'll have to unmute YouTube. Did they hear that in the chat? Were you guys able to hear that in the chat?
I don't have YouTube on, and I didn't hear it.
Oh, okay. They didn't hear anything in the chat. Do I need to share the screen for that, do you think, Jack?
Probably, but I'm not. What's your source?
Just a Google Drive doc.
Jack, it's in Avenger chat. There are two recordings. One says called her in, the other one says return clear.
I'll try to share it and see if that works.
Yeah, that's probably what you're going to do since no one heard it.
Would that be a video file or share screen, do you think? What do you usually, oh, you don't do it that way. Well, let's just see what happens. Okay, here it is. Oh, it's a WAV file. Okay, so let's see if this works.
One to run, please. LSD, last name is Bowen. Baker, Ocean, William, Edward, Nora.
I can hear it.
First name is Syrita. That's Sam, Young, Robert, Ida, Tom, Adam. Date of birth is 5/14 and 66. Black female.
Okay. Let me play the clear or the response call really quick. I forgot about this and I meant to have this already and I apologize. But it is what it is at this moment. The thing of it is that, you know, most of the time there's no recordings or anything that well, not most of the time, some of the time we don't have any recordings that we can, you know, share for you with like, what's it called? Like when they've interviewed some of the accusers and stuff. And then this is the call back, the response to his call in.
Charlie 45 C square.
Okay.
Okay, so that's basically them calling Daniel, or that's basically Daniel calling in Syrita Bowen when he stopped her legitimately on May 21st or 22nd.
Because that's what serial rapists do. They place
Yeah.
themselves out at a location with someone and then they rape them. Because they don't really care if other officers who are bored or idle come driving by to see if they need help. So that makes a lot of sense right there.
Yep.
Exactly. Okay, now we'll carry forward with the, thanks for sharing those with me, Kay, because I think that was important to hear.
He sounds I don't know. How do you guys think he sounds in the chat? Like blasé doing his job?
It sounds like to me, just everyday stuff, you know.
Damn it. God, she's killing me. She cracks me up. He sounds, or does he sound rapey?
Oh yeah, did he sound rapey, you guys? You think? Sounded pretty rapey. Jeez. These clowns, man.
Yeah. Okay.
It's too bad.
We're gonna start with this police report. And let me make sure I have it open wide and okay. All right. Okay. So this does say that the occurrence date was May 22nd, but it was May 21st, according to the AVL that I'm going to try to show you after a while too. Anyway, so this is how every interview that Kim Davis did begins in all of her police reports. Lieutenant Musney gave me a list of several females that he wanted contacted because they could be possible victims of Officer Holtzclaw. When he gave me this list, we still had not found a match to the unidentified female DNA found on Officer Holtzclaw's pants. And then it talks about Tina Mosley was on the list. Tina Mosley said that she was never assaulted by any police officer or anything. And there were several on this list of Black females that Davis and Gregory's lieutenant provided to them. There were several who said nothing happened. I think there was they say Kim Davis says 30 or 40. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but you know, that's quite a lot. And that never got discussed in trial. Okay. On on 8/18/14, Detective Homan and I went to 4205 Shady Brook Drive in Midwest City because that was Tina's last listed address in Varuna. We made contact with Tina's mother and gave her my card. She said she would tell Tina to call me. So later that day, Tina called her and she said she's never had an officer be inappropriate with her. She said she has a friend, Syrita, that told her about an officer who assaulted her and had sex with her. I asked Tina who Syrita was and she hung up the phone. So, and then there's a little bit of talk about Rosetta Great. She claims that somebody named Chardine was assaulted by Holtzclaw, and so so they're like grasping at everything that they can. So that's, but I'm not going to read all that. During the investigation, Officer David Yale was assigned to the sex crimes unit to assist with some of the research involved in this case. I gave both of these tips to Officer Yale so he could begin the research to help identify these possible victims. During the investigation, I contacted Sergeant J. Hill and obtained a list of AVL Officer Holtzclaw's vehicle every time it was near the vacant school. And I know it's been a long time ago, but we talked about the vacant school, the rapey schoolyard, the rapey vacant schoolyard, where Sherry Ellis was allegedly assaulted and Kayla Lyles was allegedly assaulted. And so she's telling Hill, Sergeant Hill, find the list of AVL for Officer Holtzclaw's vehicle every time he was near that vacant school. Because I want to turn every one of those vacant schools locations into an accuser. Which was located at Northeast 17 in Miramar. Sergeant Hill started with the points where Officer Holtzclaw's vehicle registered 10 miles per hour and under. I gave the list to Officer Jail and he prepared an Excel spreadsheet to include the dates Officer Holtzclaw went to the school, the maximum time he could have been at the school, and the people he ran through the crime information unit that day on any specific day. When Officer Jail was preparing the spreadsheet, he found Officer Holtzclaw checked Syrita Bowen for wants and warrants on 5/21/2014. However, this is important. However, the times he checked Syrita did not match up with the times he went to the vacant school. It's very important. Her and her partner, Homan, immediately began looking for Syrita Bowen, thinking that she was the Syrita that Mosley had told them about. They located Syrita's mother, who's Louise Bowen, in an assisted living home located at the 5300 block and whatever. She said she would try to locate Syrita and have her call. On October 2nd, 2014, Syrita called me from a telephone number and asked why we were looking for her. I explained to Syrita I have received a tip that she was a possible victim of inappropriate behavior involving an Oklahoma City police officer. That's incredibly important. Kim Davis begins all of her interviews with her accusers that way. She plants immediately a seed that whoever she's speaking with at the moment was assaulted by an Oklahoma City cop. I can't see because I'm reading the document itself, but I'm just curious what some, Kay or Cherie or Jack, what you have to say about that real quick, if anything. Or nothing.
Well, I mean, she goes and talks to her mom like they do with many of these accusers. They locate their family members first. They don't record the interviews. So we don't know what they told Syrita's mother. But I believe that a lot of the allegations, the touching and the different things that they wanted the accusers to say, because they really had to get all of these accusers to come off of their initial stories. Sometimes it was a little better at preliminary hearing, but they really needed them by trial to all match up. And so when you go through these different cases, you see the changing stories from initial report to preliminary hearing version to trial version. And of course, they couldn't get them all to get it right at trial, but apparently it was good enough because, Holtzclaw's in prison. So.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, I'll go on. Excuse me. So she had received a tip, just like she says with every one of her accusers. I told Syrita I wanted to meet with her for an interview. She said she wanted to call her daughter and she would call me right back. I waited about 30 minutes and didn't hear from Syrita, so I called her back. She said she didn't want to talk about the incident and refused to meet with me. I told her if she changed her mind to call me, she said she would. Then Kim Davis contacted Louise Bowen again because she had left a voicemail. Louise had asked why Kim was trying to get in touch with Syrita. Kim Davis told her because Kim Davis said, I told her because she was a victim of an assault by a police officer. There are so many things wrong with just that sentence. First, again, she's already determined that Syrita Bowen was assaulted, and it was by a cop, and it was by Daniel. Not only is she saying that flat out with all the confirmation biasness that she could possibly have, but she's saying it to somebody other than the victim. She's giving potentially confidential information to someone other than the victim, which
she's witness tampering too.
Yeah, there's that too. I didn't even think about that.
Well, you got to think about this. That was my best Kim Davis.
You got to use some common sense.
You got to use a little in her report, she does say that Syrita acted excited, and she's admitted that she was a victim. So I guess that's her basis for writing that down below.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that is incredibly important. And Jack, I had never even thought of witness tampering, but absolutely. Okay. So Louise and Syrita told her the following. Louise said Syrita told her the following. She was walking down the street late one evening. I feel like a song is about to be sung. The officer pulled her over and told her if she didn't, she would go to jail for streetwalker woman, quote unquote. The officer made her have oral sex with him. And oh, by the way, there's a lot of possibly uncomfortable language in these transcripts and police reports, a lot. So, but we read it the way it's written as to not seem like we're trying to manipulate anything. So I'm sorry, you're just going to have to hear it. Grow up, people in chat. I told Louise that Syrita didn't want to talk to me about it. Louise said when it happened, Syrita didn't report the incident because she was afraid of retaliation from other officers. Standard line. And, I understand that may make sense. But this is a standard line from every single one of them. I try to be accepting of that, but
that may have been given to them initially by detectives in some cases. They gave him a lot of reasons. They would ask him, why you didn't report. And then before they would have a chance to answer, they would answer it for him in the form of a question. And then,
because you were afraid of the other officer retaliating on you, right?
Yes.
I can hear it.
Yeah. And then amazingly, she was so perceptive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She was very bright. She was the best sex crimes detective they ever had, if to hear her superiors talk. So Okay, so Louise, Kim Davis says that she told Louise that Syrita didn't want to talk about it. Louise said when it happened, because of retaliation, I read that. Louise and Syrita, Louise said Syrita is never home and she leads a quote unquote wild life. She said Syrita was afraid of getting in trouble for reporting. On October 15th, 2014, I contacted Louise Bowen to find out when she moved into her assisted living home because Syrita said the assault occurred before her mother moved. Now, this is going to get all twisty, so I'll try to make it more understandable if I can. So Syrita says that the assault took place before her mother moved into the assisted living home. Louise said she moved into assisted living on June 1st, 2014, and that she moved from her home on 2023 Northeast 12th Street in Oklahoma City. So here's kind of the body. Well, this isn't the body. This is, I was so annoyed when I read this. On October 7th, 2014, Oklahoma County District Attorney David Prater contacted Kim Davis and inquired if I was looking for Syrita Bowen out of the blue, right? I confirmed I was. David said David said Syrita is related to a pastor on the east side of Oklahoma City. Syrita went to her family and talked to them about this. They went to the pastor. The pastor then went to attorney Tony Coleman. On 10/7, that later that day, Kim Davis contacted the attorney Tony Coleman over the telephone. Tony said Syrita's family contacted him and Syrita wants to cooperate. He said he talked with Syrita and she told him the following. She was walking at night. Officer Holtzclaw pulled up beside her. He asked her what she was doing. She told him she was coming from her uncle's house and they had been playing dominoes and cards. The officer put her in the back seat of his car. He ran her information and she came back clear. And we know that because we just heard it. The officer told her he had a charge because he could smell alcohol. He asked her if she wanted to go to jail or detox, which is just, he did the same thing supposedly happened with another accuser that we'll talk about, I think, next time, named Regina Copeland. So to go to jail or detox, taking them to detox isn't an option. Detox is a facility that has beds where you go to, and it's not easy to, you just don't, get dropped off at the door of the detox center and get in. It's a thing, it's a process. But anyway, she told him she preferred to go home. The officer said he would take her home. He drove her to Dead Man's Curve. He told her she was going to give him head and sex or go to jail. He got out of his car. He put his penis in Syrita's mouth. He stopped and told her to pull her pants down and bend over. She complied. He put his penis in her vagina. He ejaculated. I hate to point it out, but that's important later. He said, quote, you can find your way home from here, right? End quote. She said, yes, sir. And he drove away. Syrita told Tony that she told a couple of people about this incident. She didn't report it because she is a convicted felon and no one would believe her. Any comments or questions so far before I go on?
No one would believe her. That is the most common suggestion that the detectives made on tape, being on recordings, even suggesting an answer for an accuser to use instead of letting them give the answer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, they helped him out a lot. Okay. Oops, I got off the screen now. I got lost. Sorry. Okay, back to here. Okay. All right. She also thought since he was a cop, he had access to her anytime. We scheduled an interview appointment for 10/7 at 3:45. Tony said Pastor Manning was going to pick Syrita up at her house and take her to Tony, the attorney. Tony was going to bring her to the station for the interview. At 13:40, Tony called and said Pastor Manning called from Syrita's house and she was refusing to answer the door or telephone. Tony said he would call me if he heard from her. So she's really sketchy, or at least we're getting told that she's really sketchy about reporting this because she doesn't quite know yet what she's going to say. She hasn't been coached enough yet to know what to say. That's my opinion. Purely speculation. On October 9th, 2014 at 5:30, Tony Coleman, the attorney, contacted me on my cell phone. He said Syrita was being released from the hospital and that she wanted to go meet with him. Pastor Manning was going to pick her up from the hospital and asked if we could meet at Pastor Manning's church in Oklahoma City. The attorney explained the reasons she did not show up for an interview the other night, and it was because he said she was scared to go to the police station. He said Pastor Manning sent a church deacon to pick her up for the appointment. It doesn't make sense to me. If I've been, just a few months earlier been sexually assaulted by a cop, I'm not sure I want a male coming to pick me up to take me to an appointment and being alone in a car with them. But that's just me. Tony, Kim had told Tony she had a blah, blah, blah. I told him I could meet at the church at 8:00. She said she had a previous commitment from 6:30 to 7:30 and that she would meet him at 8:00. And when we come to the part that makes that matters, I'll let you know. Detective Homan and I interviewed. So they got to the church. The attorney was there. The pastor was there. Syrita and her boyfriend, Leonard Cribbs, were all in a conference room. Detective Homan and Kim Davis interviewed her alone. I had brought a tape recorder from home. However, it did not work. Detective Homan tried to use her cell phone to record the interview, but that did not work either.
Oh my God.
The interview was not audio recorded.
No big deal.
Yeah, no biggie.
All these failed electronics in this day and age. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
She's not very techno.
Oh God, yeah. And there's a few, especially with Rocky. There's a few that there's technical difficulties why they couldn't record things. Very frustrating. That is the part that I was telling you. What had happened to her previous commitment was she was operating a booth at her son's baseball, whatever, something or other. And she hurried up and left there, and she claims she went home, grabbed this recorder, just snatched any old recorder out of her son's backpack and got to the interview and found out that it didn't work, which I'm calling some bullshit on. But that's just me, again, speculating.
But the bullshit of this whole thing with detectives, not just these detectives, but detectives. I've said this before. I was a massage therapist. I would have never showed up to a massage without massage cream.
Right.
It's a tool.
That's right. It's what you do. It's what you use.
Oh, sorry. I forgot the massage cream and I forgot the sheets. So, oops. Yeah. There was no massage cream and no sheets. Come on. You have a toolkit for your job. It's just not forgivable. You don't do it. You don't do this interview.
Yeah.
It's not fair to the defendant.
Yeah.
It's just not fair. And they get away with all kinds of crap like this.
Yeah.
These are the things that need to change legislatively, as I spoke about earlier.
Any other profession, they'd be fired.
Well, it's or what the statement that they're trying to admit as evidence would be thrown out, I would think.
Or that too, or that.
I think that's what the legislation needs to be. You can't use a statement from an interview if it's not recorded. You don't get to just be on the honor system.
Right.
That'll make people start recording stuff.
Hell yeah, well,
and it'll keep people from crafting these cases like this.
Yes. I'm not really sure what this question is. I'll address it really quick I'll address it to the best that I can, or that Kay can, before I go back to reading. He says, question, has she always been religious, or was she reborn after this assault? I'm not sure. I don't know that she claimed to have found God or anything. I don't know what that means.
This pastor is a relative of hers.
Oh, the pastor. Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's I don't think she would, and maybe she's religious.
Yeah, she could be.
She could be, but I did read earlier as I was trying to refresh on this case that that particular pastor and Syrita Bowen are related somehow.
Yeah. Which happens a lot.
I guess that's what the pastor told David Prater, his friend David Prater, District Attorney David Prater.
Oh my God, who's finally out of the DA's office, but
finally.
Yeah. Oh God. Okay, so Syrita is a 48-year-old Black female. She agreed she has had several arrests. She is not on probation for anything at this time. She admitted to drug use and stated she uses crack cocaine and marijuana. Syrita thought this incident with the officer, dates are going to get all jumbled up here, guys, and I'll do the best we can trying to help you keep it straight. Thought this incident with the officer occurred sometime in July of 2014. Kay, why is that not possible?
Well, Daniel was already the Janie Liggins incident, which the after hours traffic stop, which started this whole thing, was June 18th. Daniel was relieved from duty June 18th. And also, if I remember what you just read, it happened before Syrita's mom moved into the assisted living, which was June 1st, 2014.
Yep.
So for those two reasons, at least.
Yep. And there's going to be another reason. Well, the other reason is plausible, but the date of that things change. This is insane, you guys. I've had to read this thing several times, this police report, because it was so jacked up. But Kim Davis just writes it like it's normal. And you're going to learn as we go on with these different accusers, you're going to learn that this is a very common theme in, as far as I can remember, every single one of these accusers. They don't remember when their incident occurred or where it occurred or the time of day that it occurred. Very rarely do they remember. I can't think of one who remembered anything about where, when, how their assault occurred.
But I think that detectives, and that probably did make it easier for the women once they decided to become a part of the case for whatever reason, whether it was they did want that paycheck or they were pissed off at Holtzclaw for stopping them and asking them about, hey, why are you visiting this house, which, he was watching all the known drug houses in that area. COVID brain, lost my train of thought.
Did you test positive?
Do what? Yeah, I did today, this morning, finally. Yeah.
Finally, we're like, yay, case.
Well, I mean, 7 negatives. I knew I had it.
And you knew you had it. Yeah.
Anyway, that's a whole different subject.
So maybe they had these incidents happen near an ATM. Sorry.
Oh,
sorry.
Man. I'm sorry. I just lost my complete train of thought where I was going with that. But If anyone can read my mind, refresh me.
Okay, we sure will. Somebody in the chat.
Dang it.
I'm just as bad or worse. Okay. If you remember, stop me and we can go right back to it.
All right.
So she thought the incident occurred sometime in July 2014. We know that couldn't have happened because he was on administrative leave. She said she can't remember the date, but stated her mother still lived at her home when it occurred. So again, that's the other reason that it doesn't work, because her mother didn't move out of the assisted living until June 1st of 2014, but she believes it might have happened sometime in July. So,
okay, here's what I was going to say.
cool.
So, you know, the hardest allegations to disprove, I guess, and you see this in a lot of these false allegation cases, it's when you take a real sequence of events like this traffic stop that Daniel documented, and you place a series of lies right in the middle of that. So the detectives, using these real traffic stops, the women are most likely going to remember being stopped, being questioned. All they have to do is refresh on that real incident and insert these things. That's it.
Insert lies here.
Insert lies here. And that's what they did. That's what happened in all of these cases.
Right. Okay. She said it occurred during the early morning hours. That is so vague, in my opinion, but whatever. That's what she said. Syrita said she was walking on Northeast 16th Street. There's some confusion here too. She was crossing Northeast 16th Street when the officer drove up from behind her. She said he pulled up beside her and rolled his window down. He did not turn his overhead lights on. She said when he drove up beside her, it put her on the driver's side of the car. Okay. She said the officer talked to her while he was sitting in his police vehicle. He asked where she was coming from and where she was going. He told her she was coming from a drug house. Syrita said that she had just left her mother's house. This is also going to get tricky. So she argued with the officer, stating she did not leave a drug house. Syrita said the officer was pointing to a house and saying that it was the drug house. Syrita knew who lived there at that house, and said that was an elderly couple. She told the officer a respectable couple lived at that house. The officer asked, "You live in Crescent Hills and you don't know that's a drug house?" So I'm going to switch to something quickly here to share with you. This could be dangerous, but I'm going to try it anyway. Kay and everybody else are probably going, please don't try anything dangerous. It's all right. I got it. Oh, okay. So this is Google Earth, because I need Jack to send a link to me for Google Earth Pro that actually downloads Google Earth Pro and not this. I don't know how I got it before, but I can't get it back. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I've tried every link that says Google Earth Pro and it doesn't take me to Pro. Okay. So this is the area. And by the way, Kay and Cherie, you're going to be really sad, but I lost my Dirty Players map when my computer broke. Oh, it was so much fun too. We worked really hard on that. Anyway, this house right here, I'm just going to zoom in. This house right here, I don't know what happened to with the pin with the X in it, is where Tabitha Barnes lived. This is 1530 Northeast 15th Street and Jordan Avenue. This is 15th Street running west and east and west, and Jordan Street runs south and east. Good grief, north and south. Okay, this right here, up here, I don't know if you guys can see me or not. I don't have like a pointer thing on this that I know of. But up here is Northeast 16th Street, which is where she said she was when the officer pulled her over. She says that she was at the intersection in another place. She says she was at the intersection of Northeast 16th Street and Highland. That is right here. Northeast 16th, Highland, north and south. I'm going to show you in a little while the AVL, which is going to leave you wondering, wait a minute, it doesn't really show where he was or where he stopped, where he left from. But it looks like this is Martin Luther King Boulevard right here, or Avenue right here, running north and south. It looks like it's very possible, and I wanted to put these places in here, but I didn't have time. But it looks to me, because someplace else she says, I had just turned onto Highland from Northeast 16th Street. So this is where she's saying she had just turned off onto Highland. Now, Syrita's mother lives right down here, or lived right there until June 1st. But if her incident took place in May, which is when Daniel legitimately stopped her, this is where Syrita's mom lived. So it's feasible, because these ladies walked everywhere. They walked and walked and walked and walked. And so it's, perfectly logical that she may have left her mom's house and came up here and then cut over here. It's also perfectly logical that she left this drug house, which was known to be a drug house where Tabitha Barnes lived, and cut up to 16th Street, walked all the way down 16th and over here to where she said she was pulled over.
And it's also possible that it was a different drug house, because he was watching several.
Right.
I thought I read something about 16th and Cairo.
Oh, really?
But
Cairo's right here.
Okay, I think that's where the drug house was.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There you go.
I mean, and that's fair. It could have been.
Yeah.
It could have been.
That's what I believe.
Okay. And that makes sense, because, it's right there where he says, she says he stopped her. Well, and the ABL kind of shows that, but not really.
I think I read that in the summary pages that I sent.
Oh, yeah. We're going to go over that too.
So we'll see that then.
Yeah.
But this will probably make more sense after that, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm going to use that to tie everything we're talking about together and let folks kind of like, oh, wait, but in the thing, this and that and that, so yeah. So that's kind of where it started right here. Now, the rapey vacant schoolyard is right here. I don't know if you guys can really see where I'm pointing very well or not, but this is the vacant rapey schoolyard.
Oh yeah, I can see it.
Okay,
I can see it. I'm blind.
Okay, good. And this is Creston Hills, where if you lived in Creston, you mean to say you live in Creston Hills and you don't know? So yeah. And this is where allegedly Sherry Ellis and Kayla Lyles were also sexually assaulted. Okay, so we're done with that for now. Back to this police report. Okay, anybody in the chat have any questions, you guys, or comments that we need to address real quick before? Okay. So she argued with the officer about where she would. She said Syrita said the officer got out of his patrol car. He asked her if she had anything on her. She told him no. He did not search her, which is, I think, the first time I've ever heard from any of the accusers that he didn't search her. He put her in the back seat of his car. She said he got back into his car took her information and called her in. And we know he did that. We heard it. And it's the right thing for him to do. Syrita said the officer told her she had two choices, jail or detox. She said she had been drinking and she assumed the officer could smell it on her. He asked her what she wanted to do. Syrita said she was thinking she had never been to detox and it scared her. She didn't want to go back to jail, so she told the officer, I'd rather go home. At about that time, she said her check for warrants came back clear. The officer told her he was going to take her home. He didn't ask her where she lived, but the computer had all the information about her on it. So she.
Hey, Rhonda.
Yes.
Were you going to? Did you mean to swap the Google Earth?
Do it?
No.
Yes. Shot. I forgot to switch my screen. Thank you.
Just say shut up, Jack.
No, I'm glad you said something. I'm glad you said it. It's fine. I don't know if I can remember where it is. There it is. Nothing embarrassing about that. So he checked her for the wants and the warrants. We heard that come back clear. She didn't think anything about it because she thought when he ran her, he would be able to find all of her information. So she wasn't worried or bothered that he didn't ask where she lived. Syrita said at this time they were on Highland in between 16th and 17th Street. The officer drove down 17th to Miramar and then crossed 16th Street. She said he got to Dead Man's Curve. Kay, can you explain Dead Man's Curve, please? And if it's like really a real place.
She had to go get some tea.
My dog's freaking out.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. So apparently this place that she keeps referring to as Dead Man's Curve isn't really referred to by people in Oklahoma City as Dead Man's Curve. Now, that doesn't mean that she didn't call it that. Obviously, she did. But the way they made it sound was like it was down this dark road where nobody lived, and it was full of weeds, high weeds that hadn't been maintained or anything in years. And it was dark and scary, and that they used to find dead bodies in there. And that's where Kay has said before that there was never any dead bodies ever found in there that she ever could find any information on. But, they had to make it more scary. So she says that she explained it is near 12th and 13th on Miramar. She said it looks like a dead end and people dump a lot of trash in that area. She said the street is crooked and it continues on. While the officer was driving to Dead Man's Curve, he told her, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to give me some sex and some head or your ass is going to jail. Syrita asked, really? Are you serious? The officer said, yeah. Syrita still thought it was a joke and said, is this offering to engage? She said the officer laughed and stopped the car. The officer said, I'm serious. You're going to give me some head and sex or you're going to jail. She said the officer pulled the car over and stopped. He got out of the driver's seat. He unzipped his pants before he opened her back door. She said he was ready. She said he had an erection. Syrita said she didn't want to go to jail. She said it was just another dick. The officer put his penis in her mouth for approximately 5 minutes. That time will vary from report to report. He stopped and told her to get out of the car and pull her pants down and bend over. She complied, and he put his penis in her vagina. She said he didn't talk as he was assaulting her. She said he ejaculated. He did not wear a condom. Syrita is the first and only accuser that has said that he ever ejaculated. The only one. Syrita said when the officer was finished, she pulled her pants back up and got into the car. She said the officer got in the car and drove to Northeast 13th and Highland. He said, you know where you're at. My shift is almost over. I'm fixing to let you out of here. I will admit I haven't heard Daniel speak a lot, but Kay can let us know for sure if that is the kind of words and verbiage that Daniel would use. I'm fixing to let you out of here. Maybe he does, or maybe he did. I don't know. But we can.
I mean, I'm not. I've never heard him say the word fixing that I'm aware of. I think um, in his live, they're going to go over the interview on Tuesday. His sister's been interviewing him on Facebook Live on Tuesday nights at 8 Central. It's on Jenny Holtzclaw's Facebook page, also on Daniel Holtzclaw YouTube channel. But I'll try to search that and see, because you'd think in 2 hours he would have said the word fixing if he says it.
Right.
That's not, I've never heard him talk like that.
I like I said, I've never spoken to him, but can't. Yeah. So
some of their allegations about, like the sexual things he says, like I'm going to F the S out of you or something like that. I think that was Chardarian Hill's.
Yeah.
That it just blows my mind thinking back to the first time I went to visit him in prison and talking to him for 6 hours. Just his whole personality. It's like, I know people say things that in a sexual situation that they wouldn't in a visit, but it's just his whole kind of really shy.
Yeah.
His whole demeanor, that's some of those things are just mind blowing to me. And maybe if they all matched up and he was saying the same couple of things to all these people, it'd be different, but they all have such weird, different things phrases that he said, if anything.
Right.
Anyway, that's off the tracks.
Well, I just thought, I'm fixing to let you out of here. It just didn't seem like that was something, that I could imagine that he would say, but I don't know.
And considering the number of these alleged victims, and she's the only one he finished with.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that 10-second blowjob he got from Janie Liggins.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah.
That he just zipped up and left himself high and dry on and went home.
Yeah, because he was escalating.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Jesus. Okay. She said the officer let her out of the car. He said, "I'll see you again." And he drove away. She said she walked straight home, told her boyfriend Leonard Cribbs and her mother what happened. She said the next afternoon, sometime after 3, she and Leonard were on basically I'll just kind of nutshell this part. They claimed that they were out on the porch the next day and they saw him driving around, and he pulled up and said, started talking to her and asked her what she was doing. And then she said, whatever. And he said, "What are you fixing to get into?" No, he did not. I don't know 100%, but there's no way I can imagine him saying that. So I refuse to believe he said it. She leaned into his patrol car window and talked to him for a second. Now, no, a man doesn't rape you one night and then the next day you lean into the window of his patrol car. No. Maybe.
Well, plus imagine that. Okay, so Daniel is 6'2". At that time, he was 260, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He takes up that whole front seat. He takes up that whole space. He's a huge guy. How exactly what's that mean? How do you lean into the window?
Well, just imagine a hooker leaning into the window of a car trying to get a date.
Oh, from the opposite side. Okay, maybe from the passenger side. Okay,
maybe I could see that.
I could see that. I didn't envision that. So perhaps that's what she was talking about in her story.
Certainly not from his side though. He's a big guy.
But yeah, he's stopping at her house to talk to her after he raped her the night before. That doesn't make any sense.
No.
At her mom's house.
At her mom's house with her boyfriend standing next to her. Come on.
All right.
So anyway, he said she talked to him for a second, and then he said, "I'll see you tomorrow." Um, she said for 2 weeks she saw the officer driving through the neighborhood, off and on occasionally. She didn't see him every day. The last time she saw the officer, he stopped and asked her if she told anyone about their encounter. She told him she told the entire neighborhood. She said he drove off and she never saw him again. Okay. Just whatever. Whatever.
So she was or she wasn't afraid of retaliation?
I don't know. Because if you're afraid of retaliation, you're not leaning in the window talking to
And
him
you're not telling the whole neighborhood either. You're keeping your damn mouth. You're keeping your damn mouth shut.
And you're not standing out on your porch the very next day, just viewing the neighborhood. Sorry.
And you're not telling the officer that you told the whole neighborhood.
Yeah, because you're afraid of retaliation. You're afraid of getting in trouble.
It makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me too. Syrita said she did tell friends in the neighborhood what the officer did to her. She said she couldn't figure out where he came from. She said he was new to the neighborhood, but she could tell he wasn't a rookie by the way he carried himself. She said he drove a newer police car because it was all black. Okay, that's legit. He did have an all black car, so she remembered that correctly. But he was not new to the neighborhood. That was his regular patrol route.
I was going to say, but wasn't that his standard route?
Yes.
Oh my God.
When did his gang unit assignment end? Because that's when he got this assignment, if I'm not mistaken. So we're talking about an officer who's only been on the force for 3 years. I can't, just a mental note to check that. I can't remember when that was.
Yeah, my mind is saying April, but it's probably not.
But he hadn't run her before.
No.
So, I mean, like most of the accusers in this case would say, they're not trying to talk to police officers. They're not trying to make eye contact with officers.
Right.
They're just mind their own business and hope to be left alone, which, as long as you're not coming out of a drug house, should be something that should happen.
Right. Okay. So, she said she thinks, Syrita said she thinks I got her name from Tina Mosley. She said Tina was assaulted by the officer also, but won't tell anyone about it. Well, Tina flat out denied it. So,
I did just look up that list of women who said no, and there were 34 women that detectives talked to that said no, nothing happened to them.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that's important. Okay, so Syrita said she didn't want to report the incident for several reasons. She said she was glad she didn't go to jail. She does drugs and she didn't want any trouble for herself. She said it would be stupid to report a police officer. And she said her mother and children talked her into coming forward. She didn't come forward. None of these people came forward until the few that did come forward, using my air quotes, didn't come forward until his name and face were plastered all over the TV in August. So,
okay, so originally she said that she had been drinking and she thought that he probably smelled the alcohol, and so he said that he had a charge on her, she thought, for that.
mm-hmm.
Now she's saying because she's admitting in this portion of in this interview that because she does drugs and didn't want any trouble.
Mm-hmm.
My other thought is, once the pastor and attorney got involved, so, I mean, did her daughter, I think we're going to see in the summary that there's a discrepancy about who was at home when she got home that night and reported it to her boyfriend, who else was there. Did
Right.
her daughter call the relative who's a pastor? I mean, who contacted the attorney?
Right.
I mean, this isn't the first case where accusers, get an attorney who ends up representing them in the civil suit lined up
Yeah.
and then come forward. or come forward and then immediately get an attorney.
Yeah. Yeah, that was strange. This is interesting because going back to Kay, showing up to a massage without her table and her massage cream. Since Detective Homan and I responded from home to interview Syrita, we did not have any buccal swab supplies. We made arrangements to take buccal swabs from Syrita at a later date. That's the end of that report. Now, I'm not going to go into the rest of it. I mean, I could, but I do want to say what her boyfriend said. What is not clear about this interview with the boyfriend is if Syrita was in the room when he was giving his interview or not, because I think that matters. But anyway, she says that as soon as basically in this little part here, she says as soon as she got home, she told her boyfriend about this, that this cop had taken her to Dead Man's Curve and made her give him head and tail. He said he told Syrita she was bullshitting. He didn't believe her. And so then he kind of tells the same story or part of the same story about the porch the next day. But at the end, it says, Leonard said he hasn't talked to Syrita anymore about this. So you've been raped by a cop. You talked to your boyfriend about it the day of and the day after it happened. And then you never talked to him about it again.
And of course, when she sees it on the news, she says that's him because another thing is when I visited Daniel the first time, and I didn't know Daniel before, even though he was from my hometown, he arranged to have a photograph made of us at the visit, and standing beside him. Well, first, when I approach the table, you're allowed to give a quick embrace. So I hugged him, and just like the hugeness of this guy left an impression on me that is just buried into my brain. You don't forget standing beside someone that is so massive like that. And Syrita's not a big person. I mean, I think she's similar to my height and weight.
Yeah. Yeah. So whatever to her, she's a liar, but.
And here's the thing we have to say about each one of these accusers, though, especially in the absence of recordings, what we have to assume that there was some coercion that happened somewhere if the person didn't willingly just come along.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Which, I mean, Syrita's a perfect example. If all the days prior to the actual interview, she really was sketchy about, do I want, and I don't want her, I'm not cooperating. Okay, I'll cooperate. Nope, I'm not cooperating. I'm afraid, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, what got said, to somebody representing her at that moment to make her decide. I don't know. We don't know. Well, we won't know. So this is just information from another witness, whose name is Joe Hill. Joe Hill did all of the AVL reports and stuff like that for the department. She said Syrita stated that Officer Holtzclaw, she says Hill sent her the AVL from different locations for Officer Holtzclaw's vehicle on 5/21/14. Syrita stated
5/21/14.
For 5/21/14. What did I?
So you said on. So on 10/10/14, he sent her the 21st AVL. Wow, I just wanted to make that clear because it's important.
Well, yeah, it's important for sure. Thank you. She stated that he stopped her on Highland near 16th Street, and wouldn't you know, the AVL shows Officer Holtzclaw's vehicle is stopped at Northeast 16th and Highland at 12:49:40. The next movement is 12:55. This coincides with the Varuna check at 0:51 hours. It also coincides with CIU check at 0:53. IVL shows Officer Holtzclaw's vehicle travels north on Highland to Northeast 19th Street. He turns east to Miramar Boulevard. He travels south on Miramar, and she goes through this whole little thing of where he turned and how long he was. This coincides with Syrita's statement where he stopped and assaulted her. He does not move again until 1:14 and 46 hours. He travels back to Northeast 13th Highland and goes north on Highland, which coincides with Syrita stating that he let her out of his car at that location. So
What do you know? They all match.
I know, isn't it amazing?
It's so easy to match everything up when you just take his GPS from his shifts and fit the shit in where it fits.
Exactly.
Hey, here's a little space.
Yep. Yeah, I'm going to show you very briefly some AVL pictures so you can kind of get an idea of what she's saying, because it's blah. I didn't get to do with it everything I wanted to, but it'll give you an idea. So this is talking about that she obtained his FDI cards and his or FID, whatever I can't remember what the FDI or FID, and his shift that night. And he was Officer Holtzclaw did not put himself out on the radio or computer. Therefore, there is not a CAD call in reference to this stop. What? Let me read this. I also obtained Officer Holtzclaw's activity card for 5/20/14. 5/20? What?
I'm gonna say
That's a lie. That's a screw up I didn't notice before.
Well, did his shift start?
Oh yeah. It started on 5:20 and it ended at 5:20 on 5:21. Yeah.
He's the overnight shift guy. So
I forget.
yeah.
The last entry on his activity card ended at 23:15 hours. Officer Holtzclaw did not put himself out on the radio or computer. Therefore, there is not a CAD call in reference to this stop. Well, we just listened to the wants and warrants check on the radio that he did. So even though it's not necessarily talking about the same thing, that's a lie. Because we did hear him put himself for the wants and warrants check. Okay, that's talking about the physical evidence of this stop. This is the physical evidence, you guys, of the stop that makes him guilty of this charge, okay? One log sheet for Varuna checks by Officer Holtzclaw. Guilty. He sexually assaulted her. There's a log sheet for the Varuna checks that he checked her on Varuna.
Does that make somebody guilty?
He's definitely guilty. Well, yeah, it's physical evidence. So, yeah. No, I'm being facetious. Oh, gosh. During the investigation, she checked crime information list and the Varuna list to see when Officer Holtzclaw conducted searches on Syrita Bowen. He did a Varuna check on 5/21/14 at 0:51 hours and a CIU check on 5/21/14. That's the only time he ever had contact with Syrita Bowen. Okay, and then she goes into so much. Some of this stuff is just repeated. So she went to a lot of this incident. This report is to document the incident date, and the header of this report is 5/22/2014. The assault actually occurred on 5/21/2014. I, Kim Davis. So this is where she kind of makes her statement about, and I just pretty much read most of that stuff just in a different order. So other evidence, you guys, other evidence that he sexually assaulted her in this location. Kim Davis and Valri Homan went out to the alleged scene of the crime and they took 7 photos of the crime scene.
Alleged crime.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
so there's photos to prove he sexually assaulted her, and there, it's just insanity to me. And you guys, I'm just going to switch over here to StreamYard so I can.
What were the rest of those things you scrolled by?
Oh, did I? Let's see.
You zip by.
Sorry. Which things?
Those items.
Oh, these are just
6 of them.
detailing.
Oh, okay, detailing the photos. Gotcha.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry
I thought
about
people might want to be able to pause that and read it.
that. Okay. Yeah, these are. Yeah, so you can pause
Yeah.
later if you'd like to and read
Sure.
it, folks. But that's just a description of each of the 7 photo. Although this says 6, but she says 7. So, and then by archiving them, she did her job. Which is what she said. Excuse me. Oh, and then she talks about a mistake that she made. That's the shift lineup. This is the shift lineup for that particular date. I don't like looking at the shift lineup because it's really hard for me to understand. I don't understand it. But anyway, if you'd like to pause and look at that. Holtzclaw is Charlie 2C45, 2 Charlie 45 is his call number. Okay, so this is a really, I don't know what the word is, light picture of the AVL. And all it really shows is just, this is Miramar Boulevard. And it's saying that he was going, when he was started out, he was going 16 knots. They do this in knots. And then he slowed down to 12 knots an hour. And then he came down here and he was sitting idle. And according to this, he sat idle right here at supposedly Dead Man's Curve for just about almost 15 minutes. And then he left and headed out this way. And there's 13th East where she says he let her off. Now look at this. This is a little more detailed. This gives you like a Google Earth satellite picture view of the area. And it puts those specific times. Somebody puts those specific times in right here. I don't know who does that. But I don't think it's just done by. So, but then this is
Rhonda, just briefly, just for conversion factors, for anyone that wants to know, 1 knot equals 1.15 miles per hour.
Thank you, Jack.
And as far as, go ahead.
1 knot also equals 1.852 kilometers per hour. So a little less than 2 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
And regarding the points, Davis testified, and so did Hill at trial, that every time you run the AVL on a certain query, it'll document different points. So what the prosecution had the benefit or the advantage of doing was running it until their points worked better into their story, you know?
Yeah.
Because there's some controversy about even the reliability of the AVL as far as placement and time, which, you know, for the most part, it seems pretty accurate. But, you know, if it is off and random, then it shouldn't be able to be used against someone in trial. There's a whole, I think you've done a video talking about some of that. I'm not sure which one it is. Do you?
I think we have covered
recollection of that?
Yeah. A long time ago, I think.
I'll have to figure that out.
Now this is, so this is the top of the page up here. And then it's the bottom of the page right here. So we're not getting everything, but the next one I'm going to show you is going to possibly validate what Kay just said about all the different, every time you check it, it shows a different point. But this is Martin Luther King Boulevard, or Avenue right here. I always say Boulevard. It shows that it indicates, or you get the idea that he turned here onto Martin King. But she says that this is 16th right here, Northeast 16th. And this is Highland Avenue right here, up and down, north and south. So these little spots are where he drove that night. And then you don't get to really see much more. It goes up to 19th. And then it shows him coming down Miramar Boulevard down here. And then around to Deadman's Curve, where he sat idle for 15 minutes, allegedly. And then there's 13th Street, where he let her off. And it just fades away. But look at this that I'm going to show you. Not this one, but let me rotate it anyway. I can't read it unless it's in the right north and south layout. Okay, so oops. So this is another Google Earth image or satellite image of the stop. Now we see here we just look at the dots here. I mean, you don't have to really try to figure out what street they're on or anything. And just for reference, for something we're going to talk about in a few minutes, this is Northeast 16th Terrace. 1 block north is Northeast 16th Street. They're two different streets, two different names, but Northeast 16th Terrace comes in to play here in a few minutes somewhere. So anyway, this is the sum of the little spots where the GPS picked him up. Now this one is bonkers. I've tried to do this before with other ones and it hasn't worked. Whoops, this is not what I was trying to do. I'm trying to turn this page over before I let you see what I've done. And it keeps going back to the page. I think this will be the last one. Okay. All right. So this is a wider view of, well, it's the same view of the AVL. But what I tried, as you can see, I went in and tried to document all the times and the speed for all the different dots on here. It's not possible. I think I counted them and there were like 32 dots, black dots or places where the GPS picked him up, and 47 times. And listening to, and I got to the point where I couldn't even match a time to any specific dot. It just wasn't possible, because there are more times in here than there are dots to try to match them to, if that makes sense. And so I started over here, and and these white spots here, I'm not trying to hide anything. I was just taking out extra information that you didn't need to know.
See, what I think what's so confusing when you're trying to chart these out is, because this is his area, on some of these AVL charts, the chart will show where he goes like around the block, or he like comes down and around, and then he goes across, and then he'll come back and then end up on on Highland or Miramar. Yeah. On Miramar a lot, where he's coming back the opposite direction on Miramar. Yeah. And so it's giving you the points for the come and go, yes, all in the same chart.
All right there on top of each other.
Yeah, you have to figure that out. It's super confusing on some of these charts. This doesn't happen to be one of them. It's just,
oh, it's confusing.
It's confusing enough without that.
Yeah. I finally just said, I don't have time to try to figure them all out, because it just wasn't possible. But the idea was to try to be able to see if, how accurate. But I just think too that, it kind of goes back to what you were saying, that every time they run the AVL, the times and the GPS locators changed just a little bit. And that's what I see when I'm looking at these, trying to chart them myself. I could be wrong, but okay, this is a CIU log call sheet. And I just want to show you, for those of you who may have hear rumors that he only ever pulled over Black females and that he was targeting them, that's not true. Over here, it tells the race and the sex in this column. Black male right here on top.
Oh, wait. See, but you need to, the unit is over on the far left.
Oh, that's
so
true.
This,
I forgot about
this
that. Yeah.
chart, yeah, this is confusing.
C45.
And I understand how you get confused because I do too.
I forgot to look at that. Over
This
here
is-
on the where it says unit, that will say it. For instance, Daniel was C45. So this is hit when he pulled over Syrita Bowen.
But you're
right
not
here.
you're not incorrect. I mean,
Yeah.
although there were, just by population of people who lived in his area, it was mostly mostly Black individuals, but there are white, Hispanic, others. But that CIU, that's what that one was, right?
Yeah.
CIU, this is what the dispatcher writes down handwritten as she's taking the calls. So these are all the officers as the calls come in order.
But it still shows that Daniel didn't just target these Black women.
Right. We would have to pull all of these to show that, but they do, yes, indeed, show that.
Yeah. Here, although it doesn't indicate race or gender, but this is all Daniel here. And it's from, looks like May 9th to whenever. There might be a couple of pages of these.
This is Varuna, right?
Varuna, yes.
Okay.
You know, I'm pretty sure Gerald Wayne Coursey is a male. I don't know. Joey Germain Woods is probably a man. You know, it's hard to know because some of the names are, you know, not gender specific. This is the FID. Is that what it's called? FID card? I can't remember the name of it.
This is his daily activity sheet.
Oh, activity
I think the field interview cards are optional, as someone testified. I think it was Timothy Musney, the lieutenant, testified to that
if they were optional
in his deposition, that they weren't required. It wasn't a policy violation not to do a field interview card. But I think those were things that the officers, so if Daniel had done a field interview card on Syrita Bowen on this night, he would have documented that he saw her coming from this specific drug house and he had this interaction with her and she said these things. He would enter that he wouldn't enter. He would turn his field interview card in, and whoever enters that information into Varuna would do that. And the reason they do that is to help officers have as much intel as they can have when they're dealing with people on the street. So they could pull up, even before they make contact with someone, by nature of a license plate, they could possibly gain information about who they're about to come into contact with. And Daniel used Varuna to try to get to know the people in his area, especially the ones that he believed were involved in the drug trade.
Right.
And they used that against him.
And they used it again. Yep, they used it against him.
They trained him to do it and then used it against him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
Now, just for shits and grins, right here on this, it shows start time, end time. So for any given call, he puts in the time that the call started and the time that the call ended. And because if you remember the interview, the interrogation video, Kim Davis makes a big deal, a huge deal, that it took him about 15 minutes on the Janie Liggins call. an average stop for Daniel, and at least in my case, when I've ever been pulled over, is at least 15 minutes that I'm sitting there waiting to get my damn ticket so I can get to where I got to go. I was already speeding because I was late. Mofos. But anyway, and then it just tells over here, it'll tell the exact minutes that he was on a call. So, you know, there's just no, there's no hard and fast. Some of his calls were 10 minutes. These up here were 5 minutes. Three calls that were only 5 minutes. So there was an attempted something here on 1905 South Jordan Avenue that was an hour long. So, you know, they used all that against him, and it was just ridiculous. Okay, so they did not go back out to get a buccal swab from Syrita Bowen until October 3rd. And they were talking to her as early as November 3rd. And they had started this report started her report on October 6th. So that was weird. Although it didn't really matter because these women weren't going to have any DNA, even if they had been assaulted, because it had been so long at that point. So that's gosh, I thought I was going to be able to get through that so much quicker. I don't know. Yes, I want to save the changes. Let me check chat. Let me see how many people we have watching, how bored people are getting, because this might have to go into another day. Because I don't want to keep folks here and I don't want to be skimpy on these next parts that are coming either. Stop sharing my screen. I don't know, Kay and Cherie, what do you guys think? I kind of feel like I want to. Kay's not here Kay's not at her desk. I kind of want to not. I don't want to stay up all night doing this. I don't want it to go into, how long have we been on already? Does anybody know? Looks like about over an hour and a half. So
hour and 41 minutes.
Oh yeah. I don't want to go much longer. Maybe what I'll do is we will go. I'm really sorry, everybody in chat, but what we'll do next time is we'll go into the preliminary transcripts and the trial transcripts and questions. And that way, you know, we can start comparing, and I'm sure it'll be hard to remember, and I'll maybe skim through the police report again, just so you can make the connections next time. But I don't want to skip over any of the transcripts, and I definitely don't want to skip any information that's coming up after that we were going to read through, because it's a really hefty, good breakdown, like 6 or 7 or 8 pages breakdown of Syrita Bowen's entire case, that puts together all of the things that I talked about in the police report and that we'll talk about in the transcripts. It lines it all out in this other document that I have, that's going to put it all together for you in one place so that you can see how it all fits together or doesn't fit together. Really sorry, but it's hard to get through. Just okay, Kay's back at her desk. Did you hear what I was suggesting, Kay?
No, I was taking care of the other COVID patient.
Oh my gosh. Kay's house is full of COVID. Oh my well, God. We've been on for an hour and a half, and I don't want to bore. I don't want to. I don't know if I want to go through the preliminary, through the trial transcripts today and the other.
I would wait. I would do the 7-page or however many page document.
You want to go through that, and then we'll do the transcripts later?
Yeah, we can just see where we are
Okay.
after that, because I think that'll take, as long as it's taken to go through a police report
Yeah.
and look at a few maps.
Right. It's taken a long time.
Here we are coming up on 2 hours. So
Yeah.
let's just bust that out and see where we are.
Okay. That sounds like a good idea. Yeah, because this part that we're going to go through now is a pretty big deal. Did I not?
You're on transcripts.
Trial. What the heck?
You on the wrong thing, girl.
I'm doing the wrong thing. I am doing the wrong thing. I must have accidentally closed it. Okay. So this is 5 pages. So it's not really that long, but it's going to do a really good job of tying things together for you. And I didn't share the screen, did I? Oh, I did. Oh, yay me. Okay. So Kay's, we need to protect Kay's throat. We'll save her for answering questions and comments. And so between Jack and Cherie and I, we'll just kind of switch off and we'll each read a page and then start over, if that sounds okay. Jack, are you okay with that?
Works for me.
Okay, Cherie, does that sound good?
Can you make that a little bit bigger? Because I'm blind as a freaking bat.
Of course I can. Absolutely.
Ooh,
okay, I'll start with the first page. Is that good, Jack?
Yep.
Okay. I'll start with the first page. This is going to tie up Syrita Bowen's allegations in a nice, pretty box with a beautiful bow. 11 stands for she was the 11th accuser. Syrita Bowen, and Daniel received a guilty verdict on her accusations. Date when the police solicited the allegation, that's an important word, it's very accurate, was October 2nd, 2014. The day they came up, or the date that they determined or decided that it occurred, was May 21st, 2014. 2 counts and verdicts, sentenced to 40 years total. He got 46 years just for Syrita Bowen. Count number 27, forcible oral sodomy, guilty. Count number 28, rape in the first degree, guilty. Age on the date of alleged sexual assault, she was 48. Allegation. Detectives contacted Syrita Bowen because another accuser, Rosetta Great, suggested that the mother of a woman she knew named Chardine was a victim. Another woman, Tina Mosley, on OCPD's list of Black females with criminal histories, stopped by Daniel, said that Syrita was a victim. Detective Davis contacted Syrita Bowen by phone and told her they had a tip that she was a possible victim of inappropriate behavior involving an Oklahoma City police officer. This is the only instance where detectives actually received a tip in the Holtzclaw case, which is true. But she opened every one of her interviews that way. Detective Davis reported that Bowen sounded excited, but after the phone call, Bowen did not continue to communicate with Detective Davis. On October 7th, 2014, Oklahoma County DA Prater contacted Detective Davis with contact information so that she could contact Bowen's lawyer, Tony Coleman, who had been told an allegation by Syrita Bowen by her pastor. The pastor knew the DA and was related to Syrita Bowen. Bowen eventually spoke with detectives again. She alleged that she went out at 1 a.m. to play dominoes with an uncle, leaving her boyfriend, Leonard Cribbs, at home. She was walking late at night, early in the morning, and was under the influence of alcohol when Mr. Holtzclaw stopped his patrol car and questioned her. She testified, quote, "I'd been drinking a little bit, so I guess he smelled alcohol on my breath," end quote. Trial transcript, page 3356. She said the officer asked if she had gone to a drug house on the corner, and he asked her about a woman named Rose, whom he had stopped previously nearby. Rose is likely Rosetta Great, who goes by Rose, and who appears to have known Syrita Bowen's daughter, Chardine, based on Rosetta Great's statements to detectives. Bowen denied the nearby house was a drug house. Bowen claimed the officer then drove her to Dead Man's Curve and told her she would give give him head and sex or go to jail. She claimed the officer orally sodomized and raped her in his patrol car on Dead Man's Curve before dropping her several blocks away, closer to home. Evidence of Daniel's innocence at the trial regarding this. Detective Davis sought out Bowen and opened up a phone conversation on 10/2/2014 with Bowen by stating that she had received a tip that Miss Bowen was a possible victim of inappropriate behavior involving an Oklahoma City police officer, end quote. That just goes over the stuff that we looked at in the police report. In response, Bowen acted excited and admitted she was a victim, but decided not to meet after speaking with her daughter. Jack, do you want to go next, starting with this?
Where am I starting at?
You can just start this and then
the next bullet point.
No, right here, right above.
Oh, was on October 2nd, 2014, more than a month after Holtzclaw had been identified by the local press as a serial rapist suspect. Bowen admitted she had seen Officer Holtzclaw on the news before detectives contacted her and had talked about his case with friends. At prelim, she said he, quote unquote, unbuckled his pants prior to vaginal sex, which is not possible without taking off his gun belt and undoing his belt in the keepers, something she did not say he did. Preliminary hearing, page 236. She first told police that the officer ejaculated, but changed her statement at trial to say, quote, I don't know if he did it or not, end quote. Bowen said during her interview with Detective Davis and Detective Homan on October 9, 2014, that Mr. Holtzclaw had ejaculated, and she testified during the preliminary hearing that he had ejaculated. But this testimony changed during trial to her stating that, quote, I don't know if he did it or not, end quote. Standard supplemental report reported dated 10/6/14 with Syrita Bowen by Detective Kim Davis, date 10/10/14, and it gives the pages there. Bowen changed her testimony about firing her attorney, who had testified that morning that he was her attorney. This shows Bowen's credibility issues. Bowen testified during the trial that today, before Bowen testified, she had fired her attorney, Tony Coleman, who had just testified that morning that he was her attorney. Bowen testified that Coleman was not her attorney at the time she testified. Gives the trial transcript at page 3393. Then Bowen testified that Coleman had never been her attorney in the past. It's got the ID at 3395. Finally, Bowen testified that, quote, I fired him over the phone about a week ago, end quote. ID at 3397. Bowen has been dismissed from a federal civil rights lawsuit due to her non-compliance with court orders. Bowen was a crack cocaine and marijuana. I'm sorry, let me reread that. Bowen was a user of crack cocaine and marijuana. ID at 3401. The true value of this information is that it supports the likelihood that Daniel stopped her outside a drug house and suspected she knew information about the dealers. Daniel's defense attorney, Mr. Adams, didn't confront her about the claim that she had had alcohol that night but no drugs. It was never determined whether or not Ms. Bowen was high at trial. Defense attorney Scott Adams told court during Bowen's testimony that, quote, I believe from the way she's acting on the stand, combative, that her demeanor towards me, I believe she's under the influence of something, end quote. ID at 3384. Prosecutor Giger, however, told the court, quote, this is the way Ms. Bowen always is. I don't think she's under the influence. I think
Always?
This is...
I know, right?
He's always hanging out with her anyway, so
Hanging out with all
he
these-
doesn't help it.
He knows exactly how she acts, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're buds.
I think this is her personality, end quote, ID at 3384. The court said, quote, well, this court's observed Ms. Bowen, and I don't know whether she's intoxicated or this is her personality or what kind of issues there are, end quote, ID at 3385.
So, you know, I believe I don't like to be so tough on Scott Adams because I don't know any attorney that could prosecute 13 cases that are this convoluted without being ineffective. There was
Right.
no way he was ever going to win this. No way.
Talk about it. No.
I mean,
he
it's
he
easy.
he really needed. I'm sorry. He really needed at least 2 or 3 other lawyers to help him divide this up, and several paralegals.
And a couple more investigators. Because,
absolutely,
you know, Brian Bates was working his ass off investigating this, and it was just convoluted by design. And, you know, you'll hear Kim Davis say that, and I've said this 100 times. In the interview with Michelle Malkin, she says, and it's very telling, she says, well, you know, we don't always get things done when we have one victim, but when you have 13 and their MOs all the same and their verbiage is all the same, then you can get things done.
Yeah, that is very telling.
It is very telling. Okay, we're going to craft and we're going to throw enough cases on here where you will never be able to defend this properly. And that is exactly what happened.
Yeah, it's really unfair to, I think, to the defendant, and I don't care who they are, to have, this is almost like a class action criminal trial to me when I look at it from my viewpoint, because you have so many on one side, so many alleged victims on one side. I just don't know how you can do it in one trial. I really don't.
Well, it didn't happen. You know, they weren't able to. I mean, I think, first of all, I disagree with the approach that they took. But at the time, I think Scott Adams maybe wasn't as plugged into the situation with all the civil unrest that had been happening in just that previous year. It had really ramped up. And I truly don't think he was connected to that at that time. By the time they got into the trial, and he had already committed to just saying that they were just liars and drug addicts and criminals, instead of taking the approach of showing how the department crafted the case against Daniel, just step by step, I think that would have been the better approach. But it is ridiculous for me to sit here and second guess him when I have the benefit of 7 years of research. They didn't have that. They had some spinning heads. And that's just my opinion.
That's a good point, Kay. Well, and I feel the same way. I mean, I do get frustrated when I read about, you know, things that, you know, when I'm reading parts of transcripts, for instance, and Scott Adams is doing a cross-examination or a direct exam, and I'm thinking, oh, good, he's going to address this thing and you know, get this point out that this was, you know, exaggerated or untrue or whatever, and then he doesn't, and I'm like, oh my God, why did, you know?
But how many years did it take you to be
Exactly.
able to assimilate this case into your brain?
Right.
It
Yeah.
doesn't
Right.
just happen. I mean, people in the chat are saying, wow, this is a lot. This is a lot to take in. And
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And as, you know, as time has gone on, even though I've gotten, you know, at times I've been frustrated that you know, your point is excellent about how, you know, and this went to trial relatively quickly, comparatively, you know, and yeah, Brian, was going to say Brian Adams. No, not Brian Adams. Scott,
Oh, what about
Brian
Ryan Adams? Ryan Adams?
Brian Adams. I love Brian Adams. I just was telling my daughter a song was on the radio.
Okay, I got you sidetracked. I got you.
You did.
That's
You're
all
like,
my.
stop,
That's
stop,
my
stop.
bad. Get out.
Stop.
Get off.
Back to
Get
track.
off. Don't tell
Hey,
a
no, no.
concert story.
Hey, not only thinking about 13 different defendants, and we have to consider the intangible that you can't really read it. It's the pressure on this guy, and that's a real thing. That's a real thing.
It is.
Yeah.
So it is a bit unfair, for us to be too judgmental of the guy.
But so many people have been, and I have been.
I have.
I've done it.
Well,
I've done
yeah.
it early on, and once I understood the case, then it was like, dang, why didn't I? Should have. I would have. Well, yeah, no. What would I have done with that kind of pressure and those kind of time restraints?
Yeah.
Probably not much better.
It's a bit unfair because these intangibles that we can't even fathom at this point in time. We're reading snapshots later and being, the hindsight's always 20/20 kind of thing. And I don't know. He probably did the best he could because all things considered. I clearly, it's like Buting and String in the Avery case. Clearly, they dropped the ball on so many things, the forest and trees things. But again, the intangibles, I think it's just hard to. It's unfair to be too difficult on Adams. I get it. I do.
Yeah. Case 10 has a great question. He's thinking, I don't recall for something. I'm sorry. I don't know what the previous comment was, but he says, I'm sure I know the answer and it's probably irrelevant but it is very relevant case. But were any of the accusers drug tested? And Cherie did answer down at the bottom. There was one. It was Tabitha Barnes was drug tested during the trial. Like in the middle of trial, they had to stop the trial, stop the proceedings, take lunch early so that they could go and get her drug tested because she was so, oh my God, her trial transcript is all over the place and so hateful and so just out there. And so they went through quite a bit of back.
Was she cranked up? Was she cranked up?
Cranked up on PCP.
Oh my God.
I think PCP and
her
Valium maybe.
Xanax.
What's the
Zoloft, Xanax, and
I can't remember what the drug is in
Vicodin?
No, I was trying to think of the actual chemical that's in Valium and Xanax. I can't think of it.
I can't either, and I have a prescription for Xanax, but
when it comes up on the drug screen, it's listed as
it's benzodiazepine.
There you go. Thank you. Couldn't come up with that.
Yeah.
Actually, Scott Adams, they had a sidebar, and the judge, or he wanted the judge to have Syrita tested because he thought she was high on something.
How did that end, Cherie? Because the summary in those pages, I think, probably cuts off the full testimony about that. Surely Judge Henderson didn't end it just by saying, I don't know what she's normally like.
He just gave her a stern little
talking to.
Slow down, listen. Because she kept saying, you're so slow. This is long and tedious. She was... And she was just kind of, I can't think of the word, but sharp with him, with Scott Adams. But it ended up, Judge Henderson just reprimanded her kindly.
Admonished her.
There you go. That's a good word.
Come on, Cherie.
Get with it. Come on. I'm sitting here not talking, having all kinds of times to think up different words. What's your problem? Case says, hi at court, laugh out loud, WTF. Yeah, she's credible. Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
but hey, she got to continue her testimony. Tabitha Barnes did,
Oh, yeah,
because,
she did.
and I think Scott Adams even agreed to it because their fear was that they weren't going to get her back.
Yeah.
Which is, there was another this is off track a little bit, but I'm going to go there anyway, since we're
And I
talking
can't talk about Brian Adams.
Well, yeah, it's not that far off track.
Kidding.
Come on, you're going to make me forget what I was going to say. So there was a deal with an incident with Tabitha Barnes where they brought her up from Texas. They put her up in a hotel. She charged a bunch of stuff. I guess she wiped out the mini bar at the hotel. She charged a bunch of stuff to the gift shop. According to Giger, these things happened. That may even be some stuff that he said in his Notorious video.
It might be.
I think that transcript, I think there's some words from him in that transcript of Notorious where he's talking about that. I don't know if you can access that, Cherie. Hopefully that document's searchable. But he's so arrogant in that.
Yeah. Oh, he was a pig.
In that video talking about all this. But I think they were just afraid they weren't going to get her back because they actually detained her over the lunch hour, but there's no record of her being in the sheriff's custody.
Yep.
There's no police report, and it would have had to be from Oklahoma County Sheriff's Department because they're the security at the courthouse. It just doesn't exist. So they just held her because they could, because Henderson said to. I guess that's enough, but it seems like there should be a report.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
But there's none that we've been able to find.
Reports. That's just a suggestion.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, what? We don't need to have reports unless we made it up. Maz said she was going to ask what PCP is. I know what it is, but I can't explain it for you.
Acid.
Yeah, it's a very powerful and deadly, honestly, drug.
Cherie's got it.
Oh,
in the chat.
Cherie's amazing. In the chat. Oh, she put it in the chat. Okay, good. Thank you, Cherie.
It also gives you kind of a superhuman strength.
Yeah.
If you get into
an
altercation where your fight or flight kicks in and you're on PCP, you'll have an extraordinary amount of strength.
Mm-hmm.
You could even bite a vial of it, right?
Yeah, you could. You sure could.
You could even. Yeah.
And also, if you get hurt, you don't feel it. Pain is way down on your list of things that you experience.
I found it interesting that in this Memphis 5 police officers that were just arrested, as they're trying to craft their narrative after, while Mr. Nichols is laying on the ground dying without any aid.
Oh, I haven't read this. What is this?
Well, they end up coming. I don't know. Maybe it ended up being in one of their police reports. They surmised that he could have been possibly on PCP because he had that superhuman strength. So what sucks is that bad officers use that to cover things up. And then good officers, when it really is happening with people, it makes them look suspect. So that's one instance of real can be used for nefarious reasons.
Right. Jack, we're talking about the Tyree Nichols, who was a black man in Memphis about 3 weeks ago, was killed by 5 black special unit officers. They beat him to death. They beat him and left him sitting sitting up on one of the patrol cars with his hands cuffed. He was unconscious with his hands cuffed behind his back. They weren't even rendering any kind of aid to him whatsoever, just left him there when they were all walking around fist bumping each other and talking about their conquest and whatnot, whatever else. Anyway, they finally got him to the hospital and he died 3 days later. You've not been paying attention to the news the last few days?
I absolutely have missed that one. I've missed it.
I have no idea how you could miss
I don't know
that.
how you could have missed it.
Memphis police chief, first of all, fired all 5 of them. So
Pretty
this
much
happened
right away.
like on January 9th or something, early January.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, she acted relatively quickly. If you look at like the George Floyd thing, she's catching a lot of heat and people are calling for her resignation, which maybe she should resign because it's coming out that a lot of citizens had already complained about this unit. Yeah. What was this unit called?
Scorpion unit.
Scorpion unit. These are officers that are in unmarked cars. They're not in police uniforms. So they show up like a gang of thugs and tase the shit out. They yank this guy out of his car, guns drawn for no reason. Then they tase him. Then he gets away. And then they find him. And then they beat him, kick him in the head, continuously pepper spray him. And then when the sheriff's department and other uniformed officers, patrol officers arrive, they retreat to go like wash out their eyes because they've gotten pepper spray in their eyes too.
They've been so careless, they've sprayed themselves.
And they're
my God.
They're over there behind the unit while these other officers are just kind of trying to figure out what the heck happened. Here's this mangled guy on the ground. Here are 5 officers that have removed themselves from the scene to let these people take over.
He's handcuffed. And he's handcuffed.
He's handcuffed.
Oh my God!
Unconscious and leaning back against one of their cars. Kay,
dying.
I wanted to ask you. I don't know if you watch gangster movies or movies about thugs and all that kind of stuff, and you know how they're drug movies, Breaking Bad, they do it all the time. When they're holding a gun, they take the gun and they hold it sideways. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Well, that's a thug act. That's the way a thug, literally a thug, not a cops are not trained to hold their weapon like that. But if you look at that video, when they show the cop whose body cam, he's headed up to the car and he's got his gun drawn, he's holding it sideways like a thug. And it's so, it makes me, it's like right now, the hairs on the back of my neck are standing up. I think there's I don't know if it's got the video in it or not, Jack, but Kat has put a link in the chat.
It does. It does have the link.
A video for the link for the video. Yeah.
A video. Yeah.
But those officers, they're crafting a narrative. First, they're bragging about what they've done, and then they realize pretty quickly, oh crap, we need to craft a narrative because we're building an audio case for our defense right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they're telling those officers on the scene, but you can see a couple of them walk around to look at the guy on the ground. I don't know. We still don't have all the body cams.
No.
That's all going to continue to unfold. But yeah, not to get too far in the weeds on this deal. PCP is where we were with this.
Yeah. That's what PCP. And so and that's what led to this conversation is that, and he did, I mean, honestly, we still don't have a toxicology report on Tyree Nichols. So from what it sounds like, he wasn't a drug user, but I think he was in a fight, flight or freeze mode, and he was fighting.
Well, at some point he was, but early on, he's looking at the officers and he's actually trying to calm them down.
Yeah.
He's saying, I didn't do anything. his voice is calm.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's the one trying to de-escalate the situation.
Because they didn't.
Which is bizarre.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All 5 of these officers have been charged with second-degree murder.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And 2 sheriff's department, there are going to be more arrests coming because none of the people that came on scene rendered aid. The ambulance a stretcher didn't show up for 20 minutes. He remained handcuffed for 20 minutes.
Unconscious.
No one attempted to give him any kind of aid. So every single person that was there should be charged for not rendering aid.
Some culpability.
There'll be some more people fired if there haven't already been.
I'll have to look more into this later. Thank you for that link, Kat. You're the best.
It's insanity. It's horrible. It's just, ugh. But yeah. So, but that's what Tabitha Barnes tested positive for was PCP, and but she was like, even though they didn't say she was doing an 8-ball, but the drugs that she was taking would have been like doing an 8-ball. She had PCP in her system plus her prescription drugs, which consisted of Seroquel, Xanax, and there was one more.
I think didn't she say, even though the drug screen showed the Seroquel, didn't it? I guess it would have. She said, I didn't take that this morning but maybe I should have, so I would have calmed down.
Yeah. I think you're right. Right.
I feel like that narrative is what I read. The other thing that someone tried to get Kim Davis to admit in her deposition for the civil suit, they asked also, did you give any of these accusers lie detector tests? We don't do that. We don't give lie detector tests to victims. Well, did you ever consider it? No, it's not something we do. We just don't do it. We never do it. We don't do it.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't have drug tested any of them prior to trial when they gave a reason to have counsel request they be drug tested.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a good nutshell, and we'll be able to do that with the remaining, I was going to say characters, with the remaining accusers. We have Adara Gardner is going to be a big one, going to be a real big one. We'll be able to do that with her, and then what's the last one?
Regina.
Oh, so I think Regina comes next, and then Adara. I think I could be wrong. But anyway, Regina's is a big one too, though. Syrita Bowen's turned out to be bigger than I thought it was going to be. So they're all huge. They're just so full of lies and inconsistencies. And, and I love on the last page that, we were able to show that here in the case of Syrita Bowen, here's what will be able to be used as new evidence at a new trial. I think that's amazing. And excuse me, just really quick, I've been staying very relevant in a comment section on a video that I watched. Well, I think we've all seen it here on the panel, probably about going on a month ago now. I've been staying up with the comments in there and, politely correcting things that people who believe he's innocent, are getting wrong. And most of the time it's just small things, but I'm telling certain things that, that are factual, that anybody could go and find on their own if they would like open-mindedly truly research the case, but people don't. And it's been really frustrating but I've kept my cool and I've been respectful with these people. And well, I don't know. I've been called a racist, a bootlicker. I'm just trying to get a sugar daddy, or I'm trying to be his sugar mama, and blah. People are just sick, and I ignore those things mostly. Somebody said, "Okay, Karen," to me about in one comment, and I just sent back some laughing faces, like, "Okay, cool," But anyway, it's things like that we want to be able to give proof of the other side of those comments and those suggestions. And I think this is the first opportunity that I've had to actually show you any police reports or parts, bits and pieces of well, we'll see the transcript parts next week, but and then so I now I feel like we'll actually be able to show you guys, especially those of you who aren't real familiar, and those of you, because I saw Shaz made a comment, I can't remember now what it was, about the knowledge that we have, because we've been years now well, Kay's been even more years, but Cherie and I going on 3 years that we've been investigating and researching, and with Kay's help, and finding all of this information. And it's just outrageous, the information that we found. um, and when we get the opportunity to finally share some of those things, it's going to be really helpful. So I think at this point, we're going to be going forward, we're going to be able to do a little bit more of that, hopefully.
Hey, Rhonda, I wanted to correct something you said in the last video about
Oh.
Brian Bates' website.
Please do.
So I think there's a misunderstanding about what he was taking off of his website. It wasn't that he was taking all the information that he had already put on it off. If you go to holtzclawtrial.com, he's done, is it 23 or 24 episodes?
23. He ended with Shardarian Hill's first part 1.
So you can still get all the information that he has. He has a timeline on there. He just has a lot of information on there. What he did stop was just doing any more podcasts, just releasing any more podcasts, which on his website, he has the podcast. He has the transcript of the podcast. He also has an area that you can click on. You want to pull up his website so people can see how to get to the documents section, so they can look at all, because it's really Bates who put all the documents out there for everyone to find. And I had a hard time kind of figuring it out when I first started trying to navigate the website. It's probably real clear to other people, but for some reason,
hold on.
I had a hard time finding the documents section and figuring out how to scroll through the different police reports and photographs. He supports everything that he says in the podcast. He backs it up. So
this is just
he did
the
a
front page
diary of timeline kind of with how things took place, how he got involved in the case, how Scott got involved in the case. He's got lots of stuff in here about, did he think he was guilty or not? When you get down to the web or to the podcast part.
So to get to the podcast part, you have to go to, let me scroll back to the top. You have to go to, which seems odd, which is where I was confused. I thought this was the homepage, but it's not.
So click on the homepage.
So this is the homepage.
And then, so this is his podcast. So then scroll. No, you went back. Click on the homepage and then scroll down. And it starts listing the episodes here in a minute. here we go. Go to episode 1. Well, this is good. Okay, so see the writing in green here?
Mhm.
So for episode 1, click here to visit the episode 1 homepage for more details. So click on that. And then see below the picture, it says police reports,
Yeah.
Ligon's car photos, his car photos. So you click on that, and then it pulls up the first document, and then you just keep clicking on the arrow to go through the whole list of documents. This is a treasure trove of supporting evidence to back
That's
up
impressive. That's
everything
impressive.
that he said.
Jesus.
He put a ton of work into this 5-star podcast. And by the way, listen to a few episodes, and if you agree with me that it's a 5-star podcast, please help him out by giving him a review. That'll help Daniel out too.
Yeah, the only thing it doesn't have is the actual podcast itself anymore. Those are all.
Really?
Yeah, the podcasts are gone. The transcript to the podcast is there. But the podcast itself is gone on all of them. There's one video, I can't remember which one. Oh, the interrogation, I think, is in there still.
I just had that open earlier.
But there's no video or any way to listen to what he's saying, at least that I've been able to find.
Okay, yes, there is. So go back up, and it says current episode, Kayla Lyles allegations. And then see all the boxes below. You can listen on Apple, play music. So just click on one of those.
Kayla Lyles.
And it takes you to the first episode. You choose where you want to listen to it.
Oh yeah, that. But I mean, we used to be able to listen to it here on this website.
Oh,
That's
okay.
That's all
I misunderstand you. I'm sorry.
But I don't even see what you're saying about.
So are you looking at the picture up at the top? Okay, so you're on the homepage, Oklahoma versus Daniel K. Holtzclaw. The untold story start here. Scroll down to episode 23, Kayla Lyles allegations scrutinized. You see that? I'm not seeing what you're doing. I'm on a different page. There. Is that?
This is.
Oh, are you in the? Maybe you need to back out of that.
But there's no.
Oh, okay.
The only thing that I see available anymore are the home pages.
So scroll up. There. That's what I was talking about. You can click here and it'll take you to watch it on Apple, to watch it on Google, to watch it on Spotify. I think he was playing it through. Was it Podbean or something? I don't know.
I use Podbean, but you can do it. You can listen pretty much wherever your favorite place for podcasts are. You can find it.
Yeah, it's just Bates Investigates.
Bates Investigates
is the title of the podcast. That's what you need to enter to find the actual podcast. Is Bates?
I just put a link. I just put a link in the chat.
You.
Cool.
So remember, Kay, before he used to have the podcast itself would be up here, and then you could go to the homepage for the transcripts and the documents and stuff. But yeah, so I mean you can absolutely, choose your place you want to listen and then go in here and find the same one, go to the homepage and read along with the transcript and see the documents and stuff for sure. He just doesn't play the podcast through his website anymore, is all I meant.
I was just clicking around, and when you click on episode 4, the supporting on the green words under episode 4, wrapping up the Janie Liggins traffic stop, he has that surveillance footage video that's really grainy there.
Yeah, that's in there.
that you can see.
It could be. It just could be a bandwidth issue that, from a cost standpoint, that it was just. I don't know. It just depends on what what service you bought. Through your domain. So this could be a cost thing.
I think from what I understood on Facebook, on his Facebook page, from what I understood, because of all of the plaintiffs kept subpoenaing all of his information, all of his because he has everything, from the trial. And so from what I understood, they kept subpoenaing him because of this website. So he took, other than what's on the homepage, he took all the podcast part down and that stuff. But
yeah, I don't know why he did that, but you can go to the civil trial docket and see all the subpoenas that came his way.
Yeah.
Covered him up.
He's like, screw you guys. I had to pay for all this stuff or get all this stuff on my own. You go, if you want it, you go get it, which is the way it should be.
They would have been wise to look at that stuff before they filed their initial suit, because all of the things that they alleged in their suit were so skewed and incorrect. I mean, conspiracy.
Yeah.
Their conspiracy thing, it's like, what?
Yeah.
Those attorneys really sunk that civil suit just
by
not knowing. They didn't know their case. I think they got their information off of what was that most? I mean, Crime Watch Daily wasn't as egregious, even though it was egregious, but it wasn't as egregious as, was it TV One or?
Oh, TV One was horrible.
Something One.
That was TV
That
One.
was just like, they were saying like that they found the DNA inside Adara Gardner's panties, and I just like, what panties? What are you talking about?
It was either Melvin Hall who said that or Benjamin Crump who said that. I'm going to off track just a little bit here, back to this Memphis situation. I know that Ben Crump has come in and really, done a lot for the right reasons for people whose civil rights have been violated. But I've been struggling all weekend long trying to see him doing a good thing in this case. I know this is definitely a civil rights case to some degree, in some way, shape, or form, possibly. It's harder though, because it's a black on black crime, but that doesn't mean it's okay. But I'm not sure. Well, because of the way they acted under the color of law and all that, that's all civil rights. So he's doing the right thing for this case, and he did the right thing for Trayvon Martin, and he did the right thing for all of those cases.
You're giving him way more credit than he deserves.
He
deserves none of that. He's an opportunistic.
He is an
money grubber. That is all. That's all.
And he just appears. It's like he drops out of the sky. When these things happen, like within hours, he is on the family, ambulance chasing. Really,
he's
it's ambulance
the
chasing.
Spokesperson for this kind of stuff, and all the national media. He's their go-to person to speak on this.
Al Sharpton. I'm not trying to get political or anything, but it's just, I really look at him now this weekend, seeing him on TV all the time. Like I put it on mute because I can't stand to listen to his voice because of what he's done to Daniel, or tried to do to Daniel.
I believed he was a great guy and I thought what he was doing was good, standing up for all these people, until I saw what he did to Daniel. And I'm sorry, you can't be like that and come at people with a story that is completely false.
Right.
Go to all of the little news stations and 2020s and Crime Watch dailies and all that, and tell a story to the public that makes them think that Daniel is a monster.
Yeah, which is what he did.
Your facts are completely false. Give the facts if you're going to do that. Don't make up a story.
I used to think he was a hero too, but
I did.
It just shows that he didn't, he doesn't look under the surface of cases. In this case,
exactly. He just sees it. He just sees. Oh God, this is going to be bad. But he sees a minority person injured or killed or whatever, and it's like a detector goes off in his brain, and he's like, oh, I got to go get me some of this.
Automatically guilty. No need to look at any facts because of the nature of it. And unfortunately, the nature of it, probably 9 times out of 10 is exactly right. But every single allegation can't automatically be assumed as true.
And that's what he did in Daniel's case.
And Oklahoma City Police Department, the Oklahoma City media, the prosecutor's office, the blood is on their hands for all of that, for putting it out there and inflaming the public. And he was the public.
Yeah. Yep, and he did not waste any time pouncing on it. I can't remember if it was the last day of the trial or the day that the verdict came in. I think it was the day the verdict came in that he was right there on the courthouse steps with those women holding up their arms in victory. And I said last week on Chardarian Hills, I showed a picture of it where he was like holding up her arm and yes, we won. And this is a civil. And I'm like, but he was found not guilty on all of her charges. Because I just thought, how disgusting of a human being can you possibly be? And he is. He's not a. Oh, I don't know. I'm like you guys. I feel like he did, and I felt that way during Trayvon Martin and Freddie Gray and all that stuff. But I'm like UK when I saw what he did to Daniel with no evidence, with no, and just automatically, believed the black women and the BLM and everything else, and said, okay, we're going to go and get some money. And guess what? This is only my theory, but I believe that after exhibits were presented to them proving Daniel's innocence, they were like, crap, they've got some legitimate evidence for proof of innocence and we can't fight that. And so I think that's
we don't want to fight that because we're basically been fighting this for 6 years for free.
Yeah.
And whoever knows how much money they advanced people like Janie Liggins, and who knows how much these women got advanced, or maybe nothing, but I doubt it.
Well, we know that they at least got advanced, if we can use that word, their representation, because they couldn't give him any money to represent them. There's no, what is that called when you go hire an attorney and you have to give them a
retainer?
Retainer. There's no retainer being given to those guys. None.
No, that agreement was what do you call it when they represent you for free for like a percentage of the settlement?
It's a contingency.
That's what all these were.
Yeah. And they're they now are out of pocket. They are out money because they've had to drop their civil suit, and they don't, that whatever they put into it already is lost. It's a loss. Not that they can't afford it, but if they had decided to go ahead and go to trial, they knew there was nothing that was going to be able to come of it. So, oops.
The attorney in this case, if you read the trial transcripts, he had already filed a case for Syrita in June of 2015.
Coleman?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So he had filed. Wow, that's crazy. Wait. when did they talk to her? Where's that timeline? So, 2015.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah. So, there's just, I don't know.
The timeline is interesting. So Bates has a timeline somewhere on his website
I'll find it.
that I have a few
You click
pages.
on resources. I just printed it off.
Oh,
A
yeah.
few pages printed out, but I think it's interesting to think about these aspects of the timeline. So September 29th, 2014, the news media reports that Daniel Holtzclaw is now facing 10 additional charges. I'm just doing things preceding Syrita Bowen. So that's on September 29th. Then a few days later, on October 2nd, Syrita Bowen returns detectives' calls, contacts after, or her calls or contacts after they visited her mother in a nursing home. Bowen claims to be a victim of Daniel Holtzclaw, but does not want to be interviewed. And then news media reports that more victims are coming forward against Daniel. Daniel's ordered to serve 14 days in the county jail for violating his bond conditions. He went to a doctor's appointment. He checked in with the wrong people. Henderson was happy to throw him in the clink.
Yeah.
Then on 5 days later, on October 7th, DA David Prater calls OCPD and asks if they are trying to contact Syrita Bowen. Prater says he's been in contact with Pastor Manning and local attorney Tony Coleman. When Manning and Coleman go to get Bowen, she refuses to answer the door. That's interesting. I wonder how all that actually fell out when you read that. So, since the pastor was friends with the DA and the DA knew they were trying to get Syrita to cooperate, I wonder how all that worked.
I don't know.
Then, 2 days later, attorney Coleman calls detectives and says he can arrange the meeting for them with Bowen at a church. Detectives claim the 2 audio recorders failed and didn't record the meeting. I think that's it. But what I find interesting is he is on the news again, just immediately preceding them contacting her mom.
Yep. Those are just some of I was just scrolling through the timeline thing. This timeline that I kind of scrolled through on, Catnet's got a link for it in the right there in the thing. So
anyway, so as you see, Brian Bates put his guts into this free service for Daniel. He's never quit defending Daniel for a second.
Yeah. But he's in law school now, is that right? And so he's pretty wrapped up in, school, which he should be. And that's another thing about Syrita Bowen. So Syrita Bowen's the first accuser who we don't have a podcast for. And so I've been like, oh wow, we need to do this. We need to Brian Bates this on our own because we don't have, him to his recording, or transcript even to share, because that's most of all the other ones I've just used his podcast recordings and stuff to I can still do that with the podcast site, from Podbean or whatever, but which really isn't any different, but there's no videos or anything. And those I can get. Well, I don't know of a video for Syrita Bowen or Regina Copeland. There is a interview recording of Adara Gardner, I think, possibly, but not through Brian Bates. So this one and the next two, we have to just kind of, which is why I was really glad to get that summary that we read to you at the end there, because it was extremely helpful. So anyway, I feel like we've given you more information than you may have expected when you came in today. And hopefully, if even for those of you who are familiar with the case, hopefully you were able to learn something here tonight that you didn't know previously. For now, until, Brian Bates finishes these last three, last four, because he's still going to do a wrap-up session about Shardarian Hill, I believe. But up until, actually, the only thing he did for Shardarian Hill, though, really was the video, the interview video with, what's his face, Rocky Gregory. So he probably is going to have a pretty good wrap-up for her when he finally does get back, get it, when he's able to get back to it. So till then, you kind of get what we have to share with you, but I feel like we've had the opportunity to have a little more than what I expected. So it's been pretty good. So anyway, any other questions or anything or comments from anybody in chat? Case 10 says, very informative. I've learned that these investigators suck as well. Yes, they do. They were horrible. And their lieutenant, their supervisor, Timothy Musney, he's just as bad. He's just more behind the scenes. He's evil. And I don't even remember which video it is, but I remember watching something. I think it was the day the verdict was coming in. And it's from a news video or something, and they kind of are focused in there for quite a while before the jury comes and stuff. And you can see, I think this is where I saw it, you can see Timothy Musney sitting on the front row in the courtroom. And I just look at him, and he's not an ugly man. He's an attractive man. But I just remember looking at him the whole time they were on him, and I was just thinking, you are so ugly. Your soul is ugly and dark, and your heart is black. And his physical attractiveness was just like a dark soul to me. I just thought, there's nothing attractive about you.
In his deposition, he just seems like a good old boy.
He does.
And he didn't have any qualifications to get that position either.
No. Nope, not at all.
And he tells you that in the deposition.
Yeah,
I should say that's revealed.
Revealed, yeah. So, all right. Well, I know that the thumbnail said that we were going to talk about other updates on other cases. The only thing that I am going to bring up, though, is about Richard Glossip. Again, I know if your throat's bothering you, you don't have to say anything, but if you want to just try to explain quickly what the new information about Richard Glossip is.
So in Oklahoma, so I think this is Glossip's 7th. Am I right? His 7th execution date that was on the calendar?
It is now. It's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this might be. It's his 6th or 7th. Yes.
So we have a new attorney general, Republican Gentner Drummond, who ran against Mike Hunter and lost by just like a handful of votes, like 300 votes or something like that, which maybe it would have been better to have Drummond that whole time. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So Drummond just took office, and pretty much the first thing that pops up for him is the execution of Richard Glossip, which A team of attorneys headed by, can someone help me with this attorney's name? With Glossip's attorney's name. Oh, no,
Knight.
this is, okay, Richard Knight.
Richard Knight.
I don't know how this came about, if Richard was soliciting someone to do an independent review of the case, or if this team of attorneys contacted Richard Knight and offered to do an independent review, which they did. And it was this whole team at this huge law firm who they did this all pro bono. They took their time. They went through the whole case. They uncovered all the problems with the case that show that Glossip is innocent. But because there was no legal way, everything's procedurally barred, and all those nice things that happen that keep innocent people in prison when they're innocent, even though the person who really is responsible for the murder, Justin Sneed, wrote a letter saying that Glossip is innocent. Was that the basis of his letter, you guys? I haven't read it.
Yeah.
But that's what I believe. So there are things like that. Anyway, so they presented their findings in a press conference through a group of state representatives and senators from the Oklahoma legislature that's how that happened. Sorry. I don't get really deep into other cases because it's too much information in the Holtzclaw case to do stuff like that. So I'm remembering now. It's this group of representatives from the Oklahoma legislature who were instrumental in getting this law firm to do an independent review of the case and present it back to them. So I think it was Kevin McDougal, Republican from somewhere, Oklahoma, who brought Dick Knight in and the attorney that heads the law firm, and they presented their findings in a press conference to the world. The governor, what did he do? Basically said I think there's no way. I can't remember how it all unfolded as far as the process, but they weren't going to do anything to help Richard Glossip. They put Mike Hunter gave him a new execution date because I think they had held it off while this review was being done, which I'm not sure why. I think that's what the governor did.
Yeah.
That was his action. Because if there was nothing they could do because everything's procedurally barred, that was pointless, but I'm glad he did it because it just bought time. So we have a new AG, and he released a few days ago a newsletter saying that he had appointed a former district attorney, Rex Duncan, out of Pawnee County and some other county, Caddo County.
Yeah.
To do an independent review of the case. They put his execution on hold again, I think.
Yep.
But anyway, so it's this one former DA who's in charge of reviewing the case. Here's the question. Is this for real, or is this just show? Well, I really hope it's for real, because if it is, that is Glossip's path to freedom, just like I discussed what Daniel's path to freedom would be. It's through this kind of thing that these people who are out of chances because Oklahoma screws you because they have people stacked at every level to protect the conviction, protect the conviction, protect the conviction. That's what they do. You run out of chances, and this is your only avenue. So we're going to see if our new attorney general, who says he's going to clean up the corruption in our state, is for real, or if he is just one more political dude that is going to make me sick.
Yeah.
I hope he is the good man. I hope he cares about Oklahoma citizens who have had their lives stripped and their families and friends' lives destroyed. And I hope he saves this guy's life. I hope he's not doing this so he can say, well, I hired this guy to review it. He says no. I have to go by what he says. The execution goes on, and he gets it off of the blood off of his hands and puts it onto Rex Duncan. So I guess all that I've done is looked at a few things on Google, which I hate relying on just news stories to get my information, because I know what that would do if I had done that with Daniel.
Right.
But there's some shady things in the news about him.
Oh, really?
So if anyone has some extra time to research former district attorney Rex Duncan, that'd be kind of cool to see what you can find.
Okay.
So we'll cross our fingers that Glossip is getting ready to see daylight again.
Oh God, I can't hope enough. I just can't hardly. The idea of him being executed. Well, yeah, the idea of him being executed just makes me sick to my stomach, literally. Just like with Julius Jones.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't give a summary or answer a question without going off on 12 tangents and telling a 30-minute story. I'm not capable of summarizing anything.
I'm not either, so that's why I turned some of that. That's why I turned some of it over to you, because I'm fine if you go off track, but I don't like going off track. Did you say something, Cherie?
I said we understand. we know the feeling.
Yep. Have you listened to Foul Play lately? Come on.
Oh my God, there's so much good stuff in there.
I know
it's pretty sad when you unwind your brain by listening to Foul Play. That's what I do.
Really?
That's a screwed up brain.
That's funny.
It is funny.
It's why I don't comment a lot. It's my decompression usually, but sometimes I can't stand it.
You just got to say something, right?
Yeah, it's rare though. I usually am not. I'm there, but I'm usually not talking in the chat.
How many states still have the death penalty? I think there are
too many.
Yeah, I think there are 11. I'm not sure. I will bet Cherie or Katnick can find out really quick though, because they are like lightning when it comes to that stuff. I know Utah's one. Utah
27.
has a death penalty. 27. 27. I was way off. Utah has the death penalty. And I know Idaho has the death penalty. In fact, Idaho is, that I know of for a fact, has 2 pending death penalty cases on right now.
There are 3 states where the governor has declared a moratorium on the death penalty.
Yeah.
California, Oregon, and Pennsylvania.
I don't think Idaho and Utah are as gung-ho about it as,
no.
or like just chomping at the bit to put it back.
Not like Oklahoma.
Right.
And Texas.
It's a rite of passage in Oklahoma. Yeah, Texas. Yep.
Don't mess with Texas.
Yep.
They say that's their main bumper sticker.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
I can't remember. I just probably within the last month, well, since Kohlberger has started that whole thing, on the news, I saw that Idaho and Utah have not executed anybody, and now I don't remember, but in like a ridiculous amount of years, they have people on death row, but they haven't executed anybody. And I know, maybe other states are talking too, like you said, Kay, California and whoever else it was, but I know that Utah periodically, at least once a year or twice a year, talks about abolishing the death penalty here. And I just wish they would, especially if they're not, well, this is going to come out really wrong. There's no point in having a death penalty if you're not going to use the death penalty. And for as many years as it's been since Utah's executed somebody, get those bastards off of death row, give them life without parole, and get rid of the death penalty.
And it's not really a deterrent anyway. It's just not. It's not a deterrent.
No, it's not a deterrent at all. And I know that you guys have heard me say this before, but it costs more money to keep somebody on death row than it does to keep them, to house them for life without parole. It's more expensive to keep somebody on death row than it is to house them for life. So it's just pointless. It's pointless. It needs to be gone. So,
hey, I put a link to the execution database, which is kind of interesting chart. If someone can grab it from the private chat and put it in the comments. I don't have YouTube up. It's in our private chat. Can you put it in our comments?
I was looking at Discord. Okay. Copy link address. Oh yeah, we linked to deathpenalty.org several times actually. Yes, that's out of 50. Well, we have 50 states in our country. But yeah, that's 20, which is even worse, Alice. It's 27 out of 50, yes.
I should have flipped that filter around and gone from...
What's that?
Most recent.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, look, if you get a chance, look at that website, deathpenalty.org, because I mean, I know that those of you who are outside of the United States are already shocked and disgusted by the fact that we have the death penalty, but the information on that website is really astounding. And it isn't a deterrent at all, Catnip. It's and yeah, maybe, I don't know. Maybe do you mean like in the sense it's used as a deal maker for like plea bargaining? Is that what you're saying, Kat? Because, they say, well, we'll take the death penalty off the table if, and give you, life without parole if you tell us where the bodies are or whatever, So, but it's still, and a lot of people do that. They take that plea deal and they will, make the offer. But I don't think that's like, what is the truth in lending, like when you're buying a house or whatever. I don't know. I just feel like it's, I can't think of a word to explain what I mean to say, well, we'll take the death penalty off the table if you agree to this or this, when they're not even going to use the death. Like, let's take Daybell, the Valor Daybell case. I know the state is intent on keeping it a death penalty case. They have, at least right now that I know of, they have no plans whatsoever to take that death penalty, to offer a plea deal. The state does not want to offer a plea deal. And I say, good. But if you're going to make it a death penalty case, because I really have a hard time saying that I don't support the death penalty when it comes to having killed children. I know it's not fair. I should either be one way or the other, and hard.
You should, because what if you're wrong? What if you're
I'm
wrong?
Exactly.
And besides that, being in prison for the rest of your life is way more punishment than getting to take a
Yes.
ride out.
Right. But if they're going to do that and make it a death penalty case and not offer a plea deal, then by damn, you better do what you said you were going to do. Not that I agree with it or support it, but if that's what you're going to say you're going to do, then you got to do it. Because otherwise, if you're not going to execute the people that you say you want to execute, you are intentionally then costing the state more money, number one. Number two, like you said, Kay, what if?
Mm-hmm.
So
it's interesting. I pulled up a filter starting at now, going backwards. Here's the states in order of most recent executions going backwards: Oklahoma, Texas, Missouri, Mississippi, Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas, Arizona, Texas, Oklahoma, Texas, Oklahoma, Texas, Arizona, Arizona, Missouri, Texas, Oklahoma, Alabama, Oklahoma, Oklahoma, Mississippi, Oklahoma, Alabama. It's just like a handful of states that are killing all the people.
yeah.
Ugh. All right, I'm finished.
I don't know, Maz, I don't really know if how many, like I said, there are cases in Utah that would have, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago been death penalty cases, but they're just not, they're just not trying cases as capital cases as much as they used to, at least in Utah. So
it kind of just depends on how, like, the district attorney and his, in Oklahoma, our recent district attorney, he had a hard on for the death penalty going back to the 80s when Bob Macy was in office forever. He put more people on death row than anyone else.
Bloodthirsty Bob Macy.
Yeah, and he knew that he was doing it.
It was like a conquest for him.
It was.
Yeah,
he was judge, trier, and executioner.
Yeah, judge, jury, and executioner.
There you go. Thank you.
Well, I think I have a couple of videos too that I did on Bob Macy, and I know for a fact there's one on Joyce Gilchrist, at least one. So, if anybody wants to go back and look for those, they're, I think, pretty informative. But
oh, hey, Rhonda, you want to announce what Catnip did in the comments section, or what she's working on, so people who are going back will know that
they can do that. And I'll have Catnip will keep in touch with me and let me know as she does them, so that people can know which ones to go look at to use that. So we knew that there was a feature on YouTube where you can put time, you can separate timestamps for certain topics or whatever that we're talking about. Chapters, yeah, however it's worded. And so, but I don't know how to do it. In fact, I don't know how to do sorry, Jack, on YouTube, other than just really kind of just do a YouTube video. But Catnip is my manager, and she knows how to do that stuff. And if she doesn't, she figures it out, because I don't have the patience for it. So she's gone through with the last video that we just did last week on Shardarian Hill. She's gone through, and if you look in the description of that now, she's gone through and made timestamps of certain topics that you can choose if you want to, get past all my chit chat and getting off track and all that stuff. And so she's got them listed at what if you want to hear about, what she said at the very end about whatever, that she's got that timestamp so that you can go through and find that timestamp and just listen to just the parts you want to listen to. And so, and I'm going to try foul play, because foul play has had the same feedback. I'm going to try to eliminate the chit chat at the beginning of a podcast, so that we can just get right into the topic as quickly and as much as possible. Or at least, if it's not getting onto the topic we want to talk about, still keep that, beginning chit chat if necessary about the case, about Daniel's case. So it's a work in progress. Kat, I don't expect Kat to go through and do all of those videos all at once because it's got to take time. It's got to be a job. And I'm not paying her very well. So but she's happy to, to do it. So look for that as time goes by. And, I'll either through Discord or something, we'll be able to let you know, or each time I do another podcast, I can let you know which videos, or she can link which videos she's done. And so you can look at it that way. I think that'll be a lot more helpful for the audience, for the viewers. So
that's cool. Catnip, thank you for all these amazing links that help support what we're yammering on about.
Yeah. Kat is, yes, Kat. We don't call Kat a super mod for nothing. That's for sure.
She is
on it. So
nice.
I can't appreciate her enough. She knows I love her. So, okay. Well, we've covered a lot and we've pretty much for the most part stayed on topic. We got some information out about Richard Glossip. And, you know what, Kat, and everybody does their own little thing to help support Daniel. And what you're doing is very helpful and very supportive. So we appreciate you. But anyway, next week, we will go ahead and read through those transcripts that we didn't get on tonight. Now that we've stayed on as long as we have, we could have just done the damn transcripts, but it's okay. Too much information at once can be a little hard to digest. So we'll do those next week, probably on Thursday. If I don't think I'm going to have to fight with foul play for my Thursdays very often. So, and it wasn't a fight. It was just, the only reason that I gave up on Thursday this last week was because of, that's my niece right there. Kylie, I love you and I miss you so much. That's my
yeah. KZ filed her reply to the state.
Yeah. Thank you, Jack. She's squirrel.
Who?
You're like squirrel. You're telling us a story, and then you see your niece in the chat, and then Jack finished your sentence.
Yeah, we.
I knew she got distracted.
I did. That's my niece. She's never been in my chat before.
Squirrel.
I love her so much. You caused me to squirrel, Kylie. I miss you too, sweetheart. Oh, they're in Arizona. I don't get to see them very often. Anyway, so thanks, Jack, for finishing that. And things like that are going to happen. If foul play is doing something that has to be done, like reading a motion that's just been filed, I can't compete with that. I just can't compete with it. I'm not even going to try.
Plus, we needed to hear that right away.
Absolutely.
There would have been riots in the streets if they hadn't done that.
That's right.
There wouldn't have been riots. There would have just not been anybody in my chat. And I know that, and that's okay. But yeah, we have to do those motions. When they get dropped, we got to stop what we're doing and do that immediately. So it's okay. Oh, man. But anyway. So other than that, though, I think I'll keep it on Thursday. I feel like we're doing pretty good with Thursdays. If you don't see me on a Thursday, you can assume that something has really taken over my life at the moment, or foul play has something much, I don't want to say much more important, but what is the word?
New information. Yeah.
That we need to share and talk about. So I know you would have, Case, and you told me that, and I appreciate that so much. But yeah, that would have been about it. Every once in a while, Case 10 would have been popping into my chat, and that would have been it. But this worked out much better. I feel really good about what we presented to you guys tonight, and we'll do those transcripts on Thursday. And if nobody else has anything else to say, thank you to the panel. Thank you, Kay, for sharing all of your knowledge and, as much as you know, and I really, really appreciate that. So, Jack, thank you for helping read. And
I was just going to say, open mic will be Wednesday this week. We'll continue with William Beck's deposition, part 2.
Okay. Wednesday.
That we'll spend some time. I know it's the middle of the work week and all that kind of stuff. So, I don't know how long we'll spend, but we'll spend some time. And if we don't finish, then, we'll go to Sunday and try to get it finished up.
Yep. Just like we're doing now. So, okay. All right. Thank you guys. Thank everybody in chat. Catnip, we love you. Kylie, I love you. Miss you. Tell your mom I love her and I miss her. Yeah. And until next time on Thursday, peace out.